Rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, again, we're thankful to be here tonight, God, in this capacity as commissioners. Lord, we just ask that you bless each one that's here. Father, I just ask that you give us wisdom. Father, we know that we have so much to do here in this county, and Lord, I pray for our county and our state and our nation as we find ourselves in all these economic concerns. And Lord, we need your blessing. We need your wisdom. And we ask those things in your holy name. Amen. Amen. Just join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Moore, you had an item to pull.
Yes, I would like to pull my item under the commission. I think.
Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, well, hold on.
We got. I know, Miss.
I have a resolution that was handed out to you all to add concerning the county's organizational chart as a county attorney item, and I need to pull tab 15 under consent. It needs to be brought back at a future meeting.
So you want to pull 15 to discuss, or?
No, to bring back at a later date.
Okay. So item 15 off the consent agenda will be pulled and tabled to a future meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know we have a lot of announcements, but I wanted to add a very brief announcement.
Okay.
And I have one small announcement also.
Okay, any other items? Change? Mr. Merritt, you moved to approve.
Yes.
I hear second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brock. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item is the public hearing, and this is the second of two required public hearings on the Wakulla County budget for fiscal year 2011-2012. If you wish to speak during the public hearing portion of this meeting, please step forward at the appropriate time. The proposed aggregate millage rate for Wakulla County is 8.500 mills, which is 12.65% less than the aggregate rollback millage rate of 9.7312 mills. Now the county administrator will read the millage rate into the public record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposed Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County final countywide millage rate is 8.500 mills, which is 12.65% less than the countywide rollback rate millage rate of 9.7312 mills.
Okay. I'm now opening up the floor for motion to begin the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Merritt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brock. All for the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, individuals that have turned in a speaker card to the clerk are allowed to speak.
Those cards.
No cards? Okay. I hear a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Brock, seconded by Mr. Merritt. Florida statutes requires the board to address the millage rate before addressing the budget. The board must vote on the millage rate and the budget separately. I will now entertain the following motions. One is to approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2011-2012 final countywide millage rate of 8.500 mills.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Merritt,
I second that.
seconded by Mr. Moore. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Secondly is approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2011-2012 final countywide budget of $42,901,664 as presented by the administrator on July 15, 2011, and is amended through the agenda process today.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Merritt,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Brock. Any more discussion?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman. one of the ways that we're achieving our reductions is by delaying the hiring of the planning director and the park and recreation director. And I believe the interim administrator had proposed delaying both of them half a year, 6 months each. And I would like to propose that we delay the planning director only 3 months and then delay the park and recreation director longer as needed. And the reason I say that is because we've already advertised for the planning director. We have more than 40 applications. I think it would be realistic to go through the evaluation selection process and to negotiate a position so that that individual would start in January without having to re-advertise the position. We have not yet advertised for the Park and Rec director. So that one, it wouldn't matter really the timing of that one as much as the planning director. The other thing is, I know our planning staff is really feeling the stress of not having a planning director, and I was told they thought they could go 3 months, but they weren't sure they could go 6. So I think they would appreciate this. And in Park and Recreation, I think Brian Roddenberry is doing a good job managing recreation, and we never really had much management with the parks, I would say. So I think that one could go longer if need be.
Okay.
So that would be how I would like to see the budget done.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that, Ms. Art, but should we just let the administrator decide? I mean, is that something we need to vote on? I agree with, I don't have any problem with what you're saying, but I don't know if we need to officially vote for him to do that.
I think he just wanted to know if the board, how the board felt about that.
That's fine.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think we've got 3 months at least to hammer it out. We can meet with when the new administrator comes on board, discuss it further. And like I said, the funding, we can shift the funding around to accommodate that request.
Except I know the people who have applied for the planning director position have been calling to find out about that timeline, and so it would be nice if our human resources could start telling them, well, we're going to hire January 1.
I'm gonna disagree with that. I think we ought to wait until David comes on board. That will be one extra person when he comes on board, and I think that should be a decision that he makes. I just don't want to get into hiring a planning director and adding cost to our, when it's quite possible that will not be needed.
Well, he'll be on board before that person's hired.
I still don't want to do that.
And I think he's on the evaluation committee, so.
Alan, your opinion?
And I've had conversations with some people about this. There are some goals that I want to see us accomplish in this next year, and I don't know if the best way to do that is to hire a planning director or to hire consultants to make it happen. Either way, I think the money, I'm okay with moving the money in that direction and then trying to figure out which works best from there. If we need to do it now, if we want to wait till David, give David the freedom to do it once he's brought in 2 weeks, I think we've expressed that our concern that at least it sounds like the majority of us all seem to think this is an okay direction to go in, and then having some meetings and nailing out what we're actually going to do seems like a great idea.
So in other words, we're not going to mandate it, but
We're okay with
if
it.
the next administrator's fine with that too, then I'm fine with it.
I think that's fine, Lynn. I don't think it has anything to do with this vote we're about to take on this budget. I think that's something that we can come back and talk about in the next meeting if you want to agenda it, or and get the new administrator on board and let's have him agree or disagree how he wants to move forward in that. I mean, and we can give him direction. That's fine. I understand what you're saying, and I don't have a problem with what you're wanting to do. I just think we don't need to mix it with this right now.
Okay, well then, but I guess I would hope that the direction that our current staff has is that if they need to communicate with people about the planning director position, that it's fairly certain we'll be hiring in January 1, and we'll make a final decision on that in a few weeks, maybe. I don't want people dropping out, people whose applications we have dropping out because of the uncertainty, and I think, and I don't want to have to go through the expense of re-advertising. So I'm trying to that's why I wouldn't want to wait till the next meeting.
I don't know why we need a planning director per se, because we don't have any business. What are we going to be planning for?
The Crawfordville Town Plan that the Chamber of Commerce supports, for one.
Well, and I echo that same concern. There's a few things that we've been working on for about 3 years now, and that's why I said whatever works best to accomplish the goals we've talked about, fixing our enterprise zones, redesigning our comp plan to allow for higher density, different types of mixed use. These are things that we need somebody with people who have experience to come in. At the same time, our planning department, they're still planning things. There's still people coming to them with projects. They're still moving forward. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a lot more to do than just with what perspective growth is, Jerry. I mean, there's a lot of old issues that need to be resolved with the comp plan and repairing language in a lot of the areas that we need somebody with a lot of expertise to do. I mean, some point we're going to have to. I'm not crazy about hiring them right away, but I think we got to come on soon with somebody to try to fix all this.
Well, let's let David come on in and give him time enough to see that he either can do it with the staff that we have, or that it's absolutely necessary that we do bring somebody on.
I'm fine with that too. I don't care however the board wants to proceed.
I don't think we're mandating anything. I understand what Ms. Art, she wants them to be able to tell them, you'll probably start in January. So I understand what she's trying to. But again, I don't think we need to vote on it as part of the budget adoption.
Okay. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Does that conclude that item?
We are concluded. Budget
Okay,
passed.
we have a new budget.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And we just lowered property taxes, everybody, so.
Okay. Next is awards and presentations. First is the announcement regarding the bike and pedestrian facilities master plan. John Sewell and Kimberly Horn.
You want to give these guys a chance to leave?
John, before you start, you want to take a couple minutes, let everybody, those that want to clear out, you're not required to. I just got a feeling that some of you may not want to stay for the rest of this. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that now. All right.
We got facts on
I figured a few people would leave after that. Poor John Gillis was not going to be brief.
You're clearing the room.
This happens to me all the time.
Your reputation precedes you.
Let Donnie get out of here too.
It's a conspiracy to keep you in the dark.
Yeah, right.
Okay. We can ask y'all to ease on out. We'll get restarted here. John Sewell.
Good evening, Commissioners. We're here tonight to give you a very brief presentation just to kick off the Wakulla County Bicycle Pedestrian Master Plan project. We're just in the initial phases of this project. As you all know, this project's been funded through an enhancement grant from the Florida Department of Transportation. So I'm going to step you through the project and just kind of tell you a little bit about some of the initial phases of the project. Basically, this is just an overview of the project. We're going to be talking about developing design guidelines for bicycling, walking, and dealing with transit, supporting transit, We're going to be looking at a county-wide system of paved multi-use bike trails throughout the county. And I'll talk a little bit about the implementation and funding parts of this in a moment. We're going to talk about a strategy, and we're developing a strategy to move these projects quicker to actual implementation. We don't want this just to be a plan, and basically what we've done is, within the scope of our work, is we've actually got several feasibility studies within the scope of our work to, once we've identified a multi-use trail corridor, to bring that to a feasibility study level and even handle the environmental clearances that you need for those trails to move it closer to construction. And so that's something that's kind of unusual in our approach. We've done this in other parts of Florida, and it really accelerates the projects by years in terms of actually implementing them. We're going to be identifying a series of sidewalks, crosswalks, and safety recommendations. We're going to be looking at a system of blueways. What is that? That's your canoeing and kayaking industry. Looking at how to develop better supportive facilities for them and develop that industry better. And really, this whole plan is going to be built around acquiring funds from state and federal sources as much as we possibly can, because we understand that dollars are hard to come by. These are the things that we think are most important. Obviously, supporting ecotourism, that's one of the biggest draws here in the county. Supporting local businesses, like TNT and Hideaway Marine and Wilderness Way, looking at supporting those, maybe even having enough business here to support opening a bike shop. Downtown businesses in Crawfordville, and you'll see here in a minute what we're looking at. Creating a walkable Crawfordville panacea, and we're also reaching out to the cities of Sopchoppy and St. Mark's. School safety, we actually met with the school board today, talking about how to do safe routes to schools, studies for each one of the schools in the school district. We had a really good dialogue. We're going to be bringing back some recommendations. The great thing about that is that there are actually funds available specifically for safe routes to schools. You've never really been on the list in the past, and so we're going to provide a series of recommendations for those types of projects. And really, we're going to try to implement projects quickly. This is a list of our tasks. We're going to have a public workshop. We haven't really identified that date yet, but these are all the tasks in our scope. It's pretty involved. We expect to be finished with the project in March and bring a final plan to you in April. At that point, we would expect that you'd be reaching out for funding, and even really before that, in terms of the feasibility studies that we're going to provide for the multi-use trails even before that. We're going to develop some goals, objectives, and policy needs, ways to amend your comp plan to attract a greater amount of grant dollars, obviously supporting ecotourism, and even developing performance measures that you can measure your achievements over time and track progress on a lane miles perspective. As I mentioned, the safe routes to schools, we've got the list of schools. Not all the schools actually are feasible to do this for. There are some schools that have actually 100% drop-off by car transportation system. There are other schools that actually have lots of neighborhoods around them and actually would walk. So what we want to do is we want to focus the analysis and our efforts in on the schools where they would have the most impact. And so we've reached out to the school board, and they've been participating. Like I said, we met this morning, had a great meeting. We're going to continue to do some follow-up on that. The Blueways plan is really a way to capture a lot of the natural beauty you've already got. There's lots of canoe and kayaking locations in the county. Frankly, a lot of them have parking issues, safety issues. Pulling off of US 98 is an issue in some spots. So we're going to be looking at identifying some projects that we could get help from DOT to actually implement, and a variety of other funding sources, and then really look at maybe even getting the county designated as a Blueway community, which brings a lot of statewide attention to the county and would attract tourism. We're actually looking at a way to create some mountain bike trails in the county, and mountain biking obviously goes underutilized in a lot of locations, but just to give you one example of the economic impact of this, just this last weekend, Tallahassee had a mountain bike race at Tom Brown Park. They had over 500 competitors. They came in for 3 days with their families. The economic impact from that one event was in the millions of dollars. So it's actually a very significant market for this, and you have beautiful national forests that could be used for this, and we've identified this, and so we're reaching out to the national forest and the state forest officials to talk to them about that. Just as a piece of information, we're also coordinating with the dog hunter group to make sure that we're not stepping on toes. We already met with them. I had a great dialogue with them, and so our plan is to have everybody on board with this. Much like we've already done for the Ocklawackney Bay Trail, we kind of established a way that the county can identify themselves as having a county-wide trail system. And so one of the things that we're going to do, even for Crawfordville proper, for your trail system, is identifying some graphic themes that can create a kind of a county-wide system of signage, a sense of pride. As each one of your trails are designated, you could actually implement this signage. There's actually grant money from DEP to do these types of projects. And the reason you haven't gotten the money in the past is because you haven't really had a plan to go out and ask for this. But the Recreational Trails Program within DEP is a grant source that's perfect for implementing this type of a plan, and it's just a great thing to have on your website, and it adds a sense of pride to the county. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is actually what goes into an engineering multi-use trail feasibility report. We look at everything in the right-of-way, like utilities, where the sewer lines are, where the wildflowers are going to be planted is one example. And we come up basically with all of the things that have to be considered in design, and this actually makes the projects much closer to implementation. And when you go in for grant money at the state level, what happens is if you've completed a feasibility report for that trail, it moves you up on the grant list to receive those dollars. And so we're not going to do this for all of them, but for the top 2 or 3 projects that come out of this plan from the public involvement, we'll actually complete these feasibility studies, and it'll move those projects along. We're going to, when you scope this project out, you all wanted some design guidelines, and that's, just basically what you do when you do a new road or a new development or a new park and those types of things, how you design a trail. We'll actually have a set of design guidelines set up, and these will be consistent with, DOT standards, the Florida Green Book, and those types of things. Within this, there's also a marketing and outreach plan, and so one of the things that we're going to be doing is looking at your ecotourism, looking at your website, figuring out ways that we can actually market bicycling in the county, not only just the surrounding counties, but to the southeast region. Bike Florida, just as one example, Bike Florida is actually going to be coming through Wakulla County this year. I think they're actually spending a night in Sopchoppy. Again, 600 cyclists, they come, they spend the night. It's just a really tremendous economic impact. The master plan itself, we'll be developing this. We'll be bringing it back to you on a couple of different occasions. We'll actually, after the public meeting, we'll come in and do a workshop. We'll workshop the draft plan, and then we'll bring back the final plan. Just wanted to throw some slides in. There was actually an economic analysis done by one of the regional planning councils in Central Florida. This same type of analysis was also done for the St. Mark's Trail a few years back by Florida State University, but this kind of just shows you some of the economic impacts from trails. And this was done actually for the multi-use trails just in Orange County. And it looks at what those trails generate in terms of jobs, dollars, and personal income. And the numbers are staggering when you actually look at this. Now, Orange County, surprisingly, doesn't really have tremendously more miles of trails than you have. You've got the St. Mark's Trail, which is significant, but they really only have about a little bit more than double the miles that you have. Obviously, it's a lot more population. But, 516 jobs, $42 million in economic impact, personal income around $10 million as a result of these trails just in Orange County. Then when you break it down and look at Winter Garden, which, just so you know, geographically, Winter Garden is a city that's located on the West Orange Trail. 61 jobs, $5 million in economic impact, and $1 million in personal income as a result of that trail going through their downtown. Now, they embraced it. There's a bike shop there, a lot of restaurants, and they all really benefit from the trail. Looking at the St. Mark's Trail, I mentioned that Florida State analysis that looked at it, and this study is actually about 15 years old, so it's really dated. But it came up with $11 per visitor, and I need to step back. Orange County was about $19 per visitor. So for each user of the trail, that use of the trail has an economic impact of $19 or $11. Most of that $11 actually in Wakulla County because of the economic impact is measured, how you spend money, where most of the miles are, etc. And in talking with the folks in St. Mark's, they actually agree with that simply because they feel that most of those businesses down there, the restaurants anyway, like Riverside Cafe, really couldn't survive without the trail. So the economic impact from these things is significant. And there's about 170,000 users on the St. Mark's Trail annually. I suspect that number is probably a lot higher today, but just a big impact. Our project schedule, it's about a 9-month schedule. We're actually hoping to accelerate that a little bit depending on when we can fit the public meeting in. But again, we're bringing recommendations back to you in the spring of 2012. And at that point, what we'd like to do is move into implementing a lot of this stuff immediately. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you have, but this is just sort of an initial kickoff for y'all.
Task 8 shouldn't be too hard.
No, I wouldn't think so.
The mountain biking.
Right.
We don't have a lot of those.
Well, yeah, good point. But you got a lot of off-road trails, exactly.
And this was paid for by CRTPA, correct? This
Enhancements from the state, yes.
the study that you're
Yes, that's
proposing to do,
correct.
County tax dollars are not.
That's correct.
I want to
That's
make sure
correct.
that's clear.
Yes. No county dollars go into it right now.
This is sort of a new project we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
It's not anything to do with what we've had, but it's new.
No, this is a detailed look across the county.
And basically it'd be paid for with grants and so forth.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is the announcement of upcoming event by Big Bend Hospice, Pam Albritton.
Hey, Pam.
Good afternoon. My name is Pam Albritton, and I'm with Big Bend Hospice, and I just simply wanted to invite you guys to come to our golf tournament on October the 28th. This is the biggest fundraiser we have for our Wakulla patients and families. Last year and the year before, we raised about $10,000. All that money stays in Wakulla County. We have an awful lot of patients who their caregivers are sometimes as sick as our patients. We have caregivers who don't eat so that our patients can get their meds. We go into the home and we take care of the patient and the family. We buy a lot of insure. We pay light bills. We build ramps. We work closely with the Sheriff's Department. We've had transportation issues with inmates and stuff, and we did have a patient here in the county. Her last wish was to see her son, who is incarcerated over in Bay County. So we use those funds to improve this last leg of the family's journey. So you guys are more than welcome. We'd appreciate if you could come out and have lunch with us. Just take a few minutes to speak and say hello. So thank you.
Thank you. And that date is October 28th, 2011. So.
October 28th, 2011. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Next is the announcement of the upcoming firefighters fundraisers. Louis LaMarche.
evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Just want to talk a little bit tonight. We got a couple of events coming up at the end of this month. The first event I want to talk about is called Ignite the Fight. It's a golf tournament. All of the funding is going to go to further benefit the volunteers in Wakulla County with training and equipment needs. Which I'd also like to thank you guys for passing the MSBU, by the way. Thank you very much on behalf of all the firefighters in Wakulla County. The events are happening on September 30th, Friday, and then Saturday, October 1st. It's a golf tournament on Friday. It's $75 per player. It's a best ball tournament, so if you're like myself and you can't play golf at all, you can still go out there and have a good time. For the $75, you get a shirt, a golf towel, lunch, entrance to the banquet dinner where awards will be given, and they're going to be raffling off stuff from a lot of the local companies down here in the county that have provided things. You also get entrance into, there's going to be a band at the banquet. Basically a great night of entertainment. Firefighters are going to be cooking, so food will be good. Then on Saturday morning, there's going to be a 5K run early in the morning. And then after the 5K run, which it's a run walk, not a 5K run, I'll be walking. But after that, we also have the Smoke and Fire barbecue tournament, which is all of the firefighters and law enforcement are having a cook-off competition, which is the second annual for that event. So you can do the 5K run walk and then stay and eat some good food. The barbecue cook-off is benefiting, all the funds with that benefit the Camp Amigo Children's Burn Camp, which is an excellent organization. It's for children that have been burned, and they get a weekend where they're catered to by firefighters. It's really good stuff. And then the money's split with that, and then the Richard Ray Scholarship, which sends local young people to EMT school or firefighter school. So like I said, that's September 30th and Saturday, October 1st. If you want more information, you can go to a website called rainbowint.com/Big Bend area, and there's information on the Ignite the Fight tournament. And if you need more information on the barbecue cook-off, you can actually contact myself. I believe it may be posted on the county's website as well. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you have whole sponsors on your golf tournament? Do you have whole sponsors?
Oh yeah, yes sir, we do.
Okay.
Yes sir, there's opportunities for that. Any kind of sponsorship for either of the events is a big help.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a question about the 5K run. I know you can register that day, but if you want to register in advance, you have to go to this website. Is that correct?
I apologize in advance. I don't have more information. I had the flyers and we've been handing them out so quick. I believe if you go to that area, there's a link on there where you can print and it tells you where to send it into. It should have everything on there is what I was told.
Okay. And does it have a map of the course? Or?
Well, I can tell you it's actually pretty easy.
Okay. Okay.
Basically, you're going to be coming down the road, Oak Street, right behind the park, and coming through here, I believe, and heading down High and looping back around at the end of High, coming back up, and it finishes.
Okay.
But I believe it does have a map on there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Announcement of the Mental Illness Awareness Update, NAMI. Ms. Susie Took, President. They are here.
I know one of them is here.
Thank you. I'm Susie Took, with President of NAMI Wakulla, and thank you for having me on the agenda tonight. As you know, NAMI Wakulla is an affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness and was established by a group of Wakulla County residents about 2.5 years ago. Since that time, we're proud to say that NAMI Wakulla has operated a 24-hour helpline. We've created, we have an office on 319 Crawfordville Highway. We've created 2 support groups, one for people diagnosed with mental illness and the other for family, friends, and people close to those diagnosed with mental illnesses. We've sponsored a crisis training for law enforcement officers, and we're proud to say that we had 11 of our Wakulla County Sheriff's deputies attending. We offered several 12-week mental health courses to family members of people diagnosed with mental illnesses. Each of those courses was free to the public, and we don't just drop them after they go through the course. We have a support group for them that meets the third Thursday of each month. We sponsor training courses for those that are facilitators of our educational courses and support groups. All of our facilitators have gone to training to be a facilitator. Presented educational programs free to the public each month. Our programs have featured experts, people affected by mental illness, ranging from depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia disorder, as well as open to discussions on suicide and grieving. This month our program is at 6:30, September the 26th, at the TCC Center here in Crawfordville. It features an attorney from the Disability Rights Florida discussing legal issues that affect the lives of those diagnosed with a mental illness and those who care for people diagnosed with mental illness. This is always questions that come up as what authority you have. So this should be a very informative meeting. In October, NAMI Wakulla will be sponsoring the first time program of Parents and Teachers as Allies in conjunction with the Wakulla County School District. This program focuses on helping school professionals and families better identify and understand warnings, signs of mental illness in children and adolescents, and offers ideas for effective help. Sometimes you may feel that your child has a behavior problem when it may not at all be a behavior problem. This will help us to detect that sooner. As you well know, NAMI Wakulla has joined various people and organizations in our community to help fundraise that allow our sponsors our education, support, and advocacy programs. With that in mind, I would like to ask you to recognize the week of October the 3rd through the 9th as Mental Illness Awareness Week. And I have a proclamation for Mental Illness Awareness Week. Whereas serious mental illnesses such as major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive impulsive disorder, severe anxiety disorders, borderline personality disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders affect 1 in every 4 people annually. Whereas serious mental illnesses are more common than cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and are the #1 reason for hospital admissions worldwide. Whereas serious mental illness have been scientifically proven to be highly treatable illnesses of the brain. Whereas scientific research is producing tremendous breakthroughs in the understanding of mental illness, resulting in a more effective treatment that allow people to reclaim full and productive lives. Whereas misunderstandings exist about any mental illness in our social culture, often wrongfully imposing stigma on them. Now, therefore, resolved we, Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County, Crawfordville, Florida, do hereby proclaim October the 3rd through October the 9th, 2011 as Mental Illness Awareness Week in Wakulla County to increase public awareness of mental illness. I would also like to invite you and the residents of Wakulla County to join us October the 8th at Azalea Park at 8 o'clock. We'll be having our Walk for Heroes. We will have a light breakfast in the morning, hot dogs, face painting for the children, and entertainment, and there we will be recognizing our 2011 heroes. So please come out and join us as we walk for our heroes.
Okay. Thank you. We've approved that in the consent agenda, so that's already been accomplished.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to say NAMI's doing an outstanding job and filling a great need in our helping to fill a great need in our county. So thank you.
Next is the announcement of a Sop Choppy Home Companion, Craig Reeder and Adrian Vogelin.
You got Garrison Keeler with you, too?
I'm afraid we don't have him with us today. Thank you very much for having us here. We'll be brief. My name is Craig Reeder. This is Adrian Vogelin, and we have a musical group called Hot Tamale. We're putting on a show October 1 at Posh Java in Sop Choppy, and we'll be joined by two Wakulla artists, Chelsea Dix Kessler and Frank Lindemood.
The show, as you said, is called A Sop Choppy Home Companion, and it'll be an evening of music and stories, but with a purpose. We've written a song called Wakulla Green that's in support of ecotourism, so it'll be an evening supporting the concept of ecotourism in Wakulla County.
And after the show, we are going to be distributing the CD in various places around this area, and all of the proceeds will go to the Green Guide Scholarship Fund in memory of Buddy Page.
Now, if you're not familiar with the Green Guides program, are you? They are people who are trained to guide visitors to the county and show them the natural resources and beauties of the county. There are some Green Guides with us tonight. Can you put up your hands? This is a small sampling. It takes 10 weeks to become qualified to be a Green Guide. So when you're a Green Guide, you're really sharing the truth about the local environment.
So we're going to sing you our song now that's in support of ecotourism in Wakulla, and just to remind everybody that in Wakulla County, what's good for the environment is good for business.
Are we the first people to ever play a guitar in this room?
Since I've been here, yes, ma'am.
I was afraid of it.
You might want to still do it here on the mic so the TV camera can hear you.
Okay.
Who's the mic now? Not you.
Okay.
There's a TV camera.
When I was a child, I rode upon the river, fishing in the waters of Appalachia Bay, running through the forest, swimming in the springs. Never thought of living any other way. I watched the dolphins jumping, I saw the eagles soar, and my mama would be calling me home at the end of the day, where the whispering pines shade the blackberry vines, and the marsh and the bay lie pristine, where our sons and our daughters ride the rippling waters. May it always stay, Wakulla green. May it always stay, Wakulla green. Time it keeps on going, and everything keeps growing. Change is coming day by day. So much we have to do to keep the air pure and clean, and our wetlands healthy and green, and the waters in our rivers and bays sparkling blue. Make sure we never forget the treasures we have to protect, and that the care of this beautiful land is up to me and to you. Where the whispering pines shade the blackberry vines, and the marsh and the bay lie pristine, where our sons and our daughters ride the rippling waters. To always stay, Wakulla green, Wakulla green. May it always stay, Wakulla green, Wakulla green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those that don't watch NPR, I take this as a takeoff on the Prairie Home Companion. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. That was very, very entertaining.
Wakulla County.
All right, next is the announcement of Friends of Library Silent Auction. Scott Joyner, the library director.
Didn't realize I'd have to follow something like that, but after months of preparation, Friends of the Library Silent Auction, the benefit library programs, takes place this Friday, the 23rd, from 6 to 8, down in the main meeting room of the library. We're lucky enough to have had thousands of dollars in items donated from local merchants and our patrons for your bidding pleasure. There'll be everything from weekends at hotels and resorts, fishing and nautical items, art from our talented community in Wakulla County, auto repair discounts, health and beauty, jewelry, gift certificates from local restaurants, tickets to the Tallahassee Symphony, and much more. Refreshments will be available to those attending, so we encourage all who wish to come out, get some great items, and come support a great cause. As I've said many times, the funds raised by the Friends of the Library 100% fund our summer program for the children in Wakulla County, help us with our book budget, supplies, and other expenses involved in the day-to-day running of the library. Each of the 4 years that I've worked down here, the Friends have donated over $20,000 each year to the library. These are funds that do not come out of local tax dollars, from the generosity of the Friends on behalf of the thousands of people who love and use the library each year. With the Friends' support over the next year, we hope to provide e-book checkouts for our patrons, buy new public access computers, begin with the long-awaited final renovation of the expansion wing of the library, continue to provide computer classes, a wide variety of books, films, and high-speed internet, and other materials free of charge to the citizens of the county. I've said many times that our business actually goes up when the economy goes down. So without the help of the Friends, we'd be hard-pressed to provide these services expected and needed by our county. We will be having a preview of the items from 12 to 6 on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons and evenings. And if you have any questions beforehand, please feel free to contact me at 926-7415.
Okay. Thank you.
You got things, guys.
Okay. Lynn, you had an announcement?
Yes. I know there are still a lot of questions and some confusion about the solid waste assessment and the contract with Waste Pro and when things are going to start and what, you know, I ask the public to be kind of patient because this has been on a very fast track. Our public works people are working as hard as they can, and Waste Pro are working as hard as they can to work out the details. There will be lots of information coming out in coming weeks. I know our staff has been getting a lot of calls related to an ad, and there's a lot of interest in the hardship exemption. And I just wanted to let people know that we will be accepting applications for the hardship exemptions probably until October 15th, and that you can get those applications at the board office on the website. Those applications will just be for the solid waste assessment, and next year you can apply for both the MSBU, the fire MSBU, and the solid waste assessment. You will have to apply every year. And, you know, again, we're still refining, finalizing things as quickly as we can. There were some errors in the ad about what the criteria are likely to end up being and when the deadline is. So I just wanted to help get the word out there to the community of a little more time to apply. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jerry?
I have a friend of mine. I didn't know how many friends I'd have here tonight, but I have a friend of mine that's going to be coming in that I would like to introduce. They've been patiently waiting. You need all the friends you can get, and this is a friend of mine. This young dog is at the adoption center with Chat.
Don't pee on Jerry's computer.
Yeah.
hold them on your lap.
Skipper, if you would look into that camera right there, I'm sure there's some small child that would like to take you home. They have a lot of dogs and cats at the at Chat with a small donation, and little pups like this need a home. So if you would go by and see what you can do, you can help them tremendously. And I know that Virginia, can I take this dog home? Thank you so much. And Chat is a part of our county. I think they get their funding though from somewhere else, but.
Yeah, that all the items?
Look a lot better than Jerry up there.
Okay, next is consent agenda. I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll include that number item 15 has been removed from that. So, all right. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is general business. Item 17.
Commissioner, I'm going to let our I'm going to let Melissa Colbert lead you through. She's a planning person here in the county.
Very good. Go ahead, Melissa.
All right, this agenda item requests the board to direct staff to advertise the required public hearings for a comprehensive plan text amendment to the conservation element. This request would be to remove the 75-foot wetland buffer, and at the June 9th workshop, the board had discussed this amendment, and if ultimately approved, the buffer would be removed around wetlands, all surface waters, sinkholes, beaches, dunes, natural freshwater and saltwater bodies, perennial streams, and each of the 4 outstanding waterways, and this information is as listed in the conservation element.
Melissa, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yes.
So this is also going to change our springs protection, which has different buffer zones of 300 feet, 75 feet.
There are separate buffers for active sinkholes, and it also addresses spring runs, things of that nature. This would not affect those that are in a separate policy.
And this would also not affect the 50-foot setback rule that's in the code either, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And at that workshop, it was discussed that regulations on both jurisdictional and isolated wetlands are now implemented through the Water Management District's Environmental Resource Permitting Program. And the majority of the board did feel it appropriate that the 75-foot buffer could be removed from the comprehensive plan because state and federal regulations were seen as adequate. Therefore, staff has drafted the amendment and brought it back before you this evening for the request to advertise. The text changes that you see in the attachment, which are highlighted in yellow, are those that were originally discussed at the workshop back in June. There's additional text that has been highlighted in green, and those additions and deletions in the strike-through language are to clean up things where it references the policy regarding the buffers elsewhere, also correct some of the policy numbers. And in addition, staff added a new policy that would require all new development to comply with state and federal wetland regulations per the board direction, and to provide documentation to ensure this compliance. I did want to mention that should the text amendment to the comprehensive plan be approved, an amendment to the wetlands ordinance, which is a separate document, would also be required because that ordinance does reference the 75-foot buffer that is in the comprehensive plan. And the recommendation is option 1, seeing that the board has directed to move forward with this request. We do recommend advertisement for consideration of the hearings. However, I would like to throw out a suggestion that if there's not a consensus on the board to completely remove the buffer, to consider a reduction. instead.
I move that we do not approve to schedule and advertise public hearings to consider a comprehensive plan amendment to the conservation element regarding wetlands buffers, and I would appreciate a second for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to not approve this and schedule the advertise a public hearing to consider comprehensive plan text amendment. Okay?
And I'm making that motion because I've tried really hard to think through what are the benefits of making this change and what are the consequences, the impacts, the harm that will be accomplished if we do this change. And, you know, the benefits to me seem so minimal, and the potential harm, the impact seems so great and long-term, long-ranging, that I really feel strongly that this is wrong-headed and we really need to stop pursuing this. And you know, the harm that would be done, our wetlands are so important, and the harm that would be done, you know, it will be slow and gradual and insidious, and it'll be difficult for people to really appreciate what's happening. But at some point, people are going to start saying things like, gee, we have a lot more flooding these days. Or, you remember how much fish we used to have in Appalachia Bay? What happened to all of those? Or, you know, I can't remember when the last time I saw a frog or the bird that eats the frog. And you know, we're going to see declines in water quality, which we're already having problems from. So, and this is just, you know, the long-range future for making these changes is not bright. And I know Jerry gets it when we talk about water withdrawals. He understands the harm that can have to our estuaries and our nurseries. But yet he doesn't, I haven't heard yet that he appreciates that, you know, getting rid of our wetlands buffers is also going to have negative impacts on our fisheries. I mean, think about Franklin County. Who cares more about their marine resources than Franklin County? And what are their wetland buffers? 150 feet. And we've got only half of that to start out, and now we want to get rid of that. So if we're serious about protecting our marine resources, we should be modeling ourselves after Franklin County, not going in the other direction. You know, I think I'm a strong advocate for prevention, because I think if you prevent problems, it's the least costly approach. And if we make this change, as we move forward and these negative consequences follow, we are making it very difficult for future boards. And I have no doubt that there are going to be future boards that will want this or something similar to it back in place. But it'll be very difficult once we've taken it out for them to put it back in place. There will probably be litigation related to takings and whatever. We're going to have to probably engage in expensive mitigation to restore some of the damage that will have been done. Who knows, Sop Chopping may have to start charging more for water because of more water purification that's going to be required, because we aren't going to be getting the water treatment that we would get. And then this is just the last thing I would like you to think about. Our staff is very sensitive to the division between the board and the staff role. They don't try to set policy. They tell us, the refrain I hear is, we'll do whatever you want us to do. And if you try to get staff to express their opinion, it's very difficult. even though they're very knowledgeable, they have a lot of experience, they withhold their feelings. Even our county attorney, she'll tell you it's legal or it's not legal, but otherwise she'll say it's a policy decision. But there's good policy and there's bad policy. And sometimes I wish staff would be more forthcoming about when they think something is bad policy. So that's why this board needs to take careful note of this recommendation, because staff is recommending that staff urges the board to consider a reduction as opposed to the complete removal. They're offering a compromise because they may not tell you this, but they think this is a mistake. They think this is foolish, this is short-sighted, we should not get rid of it, and for them to come out and say, we're recommending that you don't go lower than 35 is telling me hands off. So, I
actually asked Melissa why she put that in there. She told me it's her personal opinion. I don't want to drag you into this, Melissa, but since Miss Arts brought it up. I don't think she thinks I'm a fool.
Well, I think staff feels pretty strongly, and rightly so. Many experts feel strongly that our wetlands are important and need to be protected. And we are removing, or we're proposing to remove those protections. And I'm just going to read one last thing here from Saving Our Shorelines. The care and stewardship of private lands and shorelines will help assure safe drinking water, clear flowing streams and lakes, bays and oceans with abundant fish, wildlife, and preserved water quality. I mean, that's what almost everybody in our county wants. I don't hear people calling for this change. And this goes on to say, it will take public efforts and the cooperation of private landowners. So let's not drop the ball on the public efforts. Let's maintain what we have in place and continue with education with private landowners. So that's why I made the motion. I hate to see our staff spending more time on this when I'd rather see them working on the Crawfordville Town Plan or some of the other things that we want to move forward on rather than undoing smart policies that were established in the past.
For me, it's a lot of the same things. I think everyone up here understands the importance of wetlands. I get the impression that everyone here wants to see our wetlands protected. We just have, some of the people have different views of the best way to do it. For me, this comes down to the fact that the language we're talking about was put in our comp plan in 1995. It's been around for almost 15 years. It preceded the land boom in Wakulla County. Every piece of development that's happened since then, every piece of property that's been subdivided since then, all done with the knowledge of a 75-foot buffer. And then we have a wetlands ordinance that gives it the teeth and allows exceptions. And this is my opinion. I don't think the change should be made to the comp plan. I think that if there's a change that needs to be done, it should be made at the wetlands ordinance.
You can't do that with the comp plan the way it sits.
No, I've talked to the county attorney fairly extensively, and there are some things you can't. I don't know what you're looking to do that you think we can't do.
And there's also, I don't want to be argumentative, but the comp plan also says that if your future land use is urban 1, it shall be changed to urban 2, which is 10 units to the acre, from 2 units to the acre. It doesn't say it may, it says it shall be changed. So we can't pick and choose what the comp plan says. And remember, before the last year, this, in my mind, the language excluded isolated wetlands. That's what really got me when we started regulating the farm pond, saying you got to have a 75-foot setback. It just says wetlands. Before it said excluding bogs, whatever, I can't remember what it's still on Municode, though they haven't even changed it there. It excluded isolated wetlands. But before the wetlands ordinance, which was developed, I think, what happened many years ago, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it was, that 75-foot setback I don't think was really anything was ever done with it, because you've got, Hidden Meadows subdivision, just as one example. Their stormwater goes into a wetland. It's an isolated wetland. Nobody said anything about that. When the wetlands ordinance was brought in, the EAR changed the comp plan to say, to take out the exclusion for isolated wetlands, in my mind. And the wetlands ordinance was adopted to enforce the comprehensive plan. So even if it has been there through 94, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. It really hasn't been either enforced or done anything with it.
But it also protects the county. I mean, any property that's been subdivided since then, if someone hasn't developed it or they have developed it, if they want to make new changes, they can't come back and say, you're taking this from us now, because it's been in the language of 75-foot buffer. They can't argue it. But if we start to get into a place where we take it off, put it back, take it off, not saying that'll happen, but I imagine it being a contentious issue for years to come.
There's a very easy way to resolve that. Take it off and don't put it back.
That is an easy way to resolve that. I don't see that being the solution. And my understanding, and Heather, right now, if you have wetlands in an agriculture zone area, and you have animals going into the wetlands, is that against the rules? Did you help? I'm asking an example.
I mean, animals
cows.
walking, I mean, you can't really prevent cows from walking into the wetlands.
You have a farm pond. The agriculture has very lenient uses, even with the wetlands. So farm ponds are still basically exempt. You can't build next to it on the farm pond, is what it is. But everything else around the farm pond has always been the way the farm pond's going to be. A man-made pond is exempt from this also. So if you're building a farm pond, it's also exempt. If you build around it, so you have that protection.
My argument's not about farm ponds.
I know. It's
about,
yeah.
I think, and I talked to the guy with the water management districts, and there are people that will say that they don't know what they're doing, or they're not going to enforce the rules or whatever. But I know I tried to get that walking trail built back at Mashie Sands, and pretty much told you can't do that. I mean, so they are stiff on that stuff. And he also told me to avoid secondary impacts, proving you don't do secondary impacts, they require a buffer for wetlands. And I don't remember if we do agree to vote. If we do agree to vote to at least talk about this, which is what this vote is not to destroy wetlands, it's to talk about possibly changing the comp plan. We could ask somebody from the Water Management District here and say, how would this affect our county?
I'm also, I am willing, and again, the wetlands ordinance, I think the wetlands ordinance is the way to do any changes you want to make.
We can do stricter than the comp plan, we cannot do less than the comp plan.
There's lots of variances granted. You can
grant variances, but you can't say the setback on a mosquito pond is 25 foot and the setback on a pristine marsh, which I think we should have a buffer zone on, by the way, is 100 feet. No, the comp plan says 75 feet, period. That applies to every wetland in the county. And it's very easy to define a wetland.
I think we can, in the wetlands ordinance, can we make any exclusions or talk about different types of water or anything like that?
You have various, you are limited by your comp plan. You can be more restrictive than your comp plan, but you cannot be less restrictive or inconsistent with it. Where you have allowed uses within wetlands, not building, but other marine type uses, there's a provision in your comp plan that allows beneficial uses of the wetlands so long as the wetlands themselves are not negatively impacted.
And talking about houses near wetlands,
there's a provision in your comp plan that allows a single-family residence to be built within that buffer zone in the event that the land is so constrained that it would otherwise be.
And I'm aware of all that. And I agree with you on one point. I think all this should be handled in the ordinance. Okay? If we want to do a special setback for pristine salt marsh, let's put it in the ordinance. You may ask yourself, well, why don't you just change the comp plan to do those things? And I'll tell you why. I proposed this 6 months ago, looking at it. Here we are 6 months later, voting on whether or not to even talk about it at a future meeting. That's what amending the comp plan involves. And I knew it would be a dog mess, and I'm sure it was, you know what I'm saying? It just takes so long to go through DCA. I think we can handle it ourselves via ordinance, putting a blanket statement in here like this. It does allow increased protections, but it doesn't, maybe all isolated wetlands don't deserve the same protection as a estuary. That's my point.
And Randy, I know you've gotten much more detailed in this than I have, and I'll keep referencing my understanding. The questions I've asked, with the example I was asked, with very few. When I talked about building an industrial plant in the middle of a wetlands, I was told that can't happen with our current.
No matter what.
Right.
You throw out our whole comp plan.
Right.
You cannot go out tomorrow and destroy any wetlands without violating state and federal regulations.
Every other concern that I've asked about, our wetlands allows us to do. Our ordinance would do variances and coming back to us.
Why should you have to come ask for a variance to build a boat dock if you have a permit?
You don't have to. I think with a permit from the state, our wetlands ordinance allows a boat dock currently. It's if you want to build, you have to get permission from us if you want to turn your entire shoreline into boat docks.
And let me correct myself on a statement I just made. I think the state does have an exemption for a small wetland. I don't remember what the cutoff point is, but the point is, everybody's saying, well, they're going to go start plowing down the wetlands and building houses. No, the state and federal regulations won't let you do that.
But
this is not plowing down a wetlands.
And I will go. And this will be my point, Randy. If you want to have the wetlands ordinance say you can build a boat dock without having to get an exemption from us, we can do that by changing the wetlands ordinance and grant automatic variances without having to.
75-foot setback in the comp plan. We can't go any less.
We've already gone less than that because you have a 45-foot buffer in that with light impact, 35-foot buffer inside that has.
That's what the comp plan says. It does delineate 35 and 45.
We can put roads through it. We can build houses on it. We can do all kinds of things with it. But this protects our county.
Alan, would you like me to amend the motion so that it includes maybe proposing revisions to the existing ordinance that might address
whatever you think is best. I'll defer to you. It's your motion. I think that if there's a change that we want to make, and this is just where I'm coming from. I understand what you're saying, and I'm just telling you what my stance is. I am willing to discuss and argue and make any points and any changes to the wetlands ordinance, and I've said that consistently for 3 years. I don't think the place to make these changes is in the comp plan. I think because it's been in our comp plan for 15 years, it protects Wakulla County from future liability as our properties get subdivided in the future. Whereas we can make any change, almost any change, through the ordinance. And that's how I view this.
In order to not waste anybody's time, what do you guys think? If either one of y'all don't agree to it, I'll just drop it right now and we'll just go home.
Jerry, what say you? I guess that leaves me in the hot seat again.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, yes it is.
And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'll drop it right now and we'll go home.
And I will gladly make ordinance changes.
I'll change ordinance. I'll change the comp. Okay. All through? Okay. I just have one question and then I'll tell you my opinion. If we change the comp plan to 35 feet, then the wetlands ordinance kicks in, and what footage it has two separate parts to it, right? It has a 35-foot and then a 40-foot. Okay.
If you changed your comp plan to 35 feet, you could still be more restrictive in your ordinance. However, if your ordinance was changed then to 35 feet to coincide with your comp plan amendment, and then a future board wanted to go back to 75 feet, you would have potential legal exposure at that time through both Burt Harris claims and potentially federal takings claims.
And that's what I don't want to see happen.
That's if a future board wants to change it.
Well, and that may happen. We serve at the whim of the people, and we may or may not be here, but...
But would the same argument apply if we wanted to change it to 100 today, for example? Would that same argument apply? That we would be exposed?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to tell you my opinion until I hear these citizens, and then I'll weigh in. Victor Lambeau?
Thank you. Vic Lambeau, 272 Pine Lane. Well, personally, I think eliminating wetlands protection from my comp plan is terrible, awful. And I could talk forever on how important wetlands are, but we've been saying before, wetlands are really the lifeblood of our commercial and sport fisheries and tourist industry. Wetlands are Wakulla's golden goose, vital to our quality of life and economic well-being. What is being proposed here? This proposal will eliminate all construction setbacks near wetlands in the comp plan. In the comp plan, the buffer would become 0 feet. It would eliminate the requirement for mitigation. No requirements to replace wetlands lost would be in the comp plan. It would eliminate requirements to consider alternatives to development in wetlands. That's taken out in the verbiage. Instead, it would rely on a state agency for protection. Does the buffer restrict all developments? No. As some of you have just said, it does not. Our comp plan allows for the establishment of a variance procedure, and the record shows that you have wisely granted a variance in the past. You can make that variance procedure very easy, almost automatic. You have a lot of options to do that. So it's not a burden on the people. Your memo agenda request states it's being proposed because wetlands regulations are now being implemented by the Northwest Water Management District. My question is to you, can we rely on a state regulator? The state agency have historically lacked sufficient resources for the job. My previous involvement with 2 administrative hearings in Wakulla County confirms that. According to the papers, the Water Management District has submitted budgets slashing their operating funds by 40%. That's by more than $700 million. And according to news reports, our governors are seeking further reductions. Undoubtedly, our Northwest Water Management District, which is our state poorest water district, will lose many employees. State policy seems to be to return growth management to local control. What you're proposing here flies in the face of that trend. Our State Department of Community Affairs and our state oversight of growth management has been eliminated. They no longer exist. Does anyone really think that we can rely on a cash and manpower poor state agency, the Northwest Water Management District, to protect our precious wetlands? Even in the best of the times, they were not up to the task. Please vote against this ill-conceived proposal. Some of you commissioners ran on a platform to protect our environments. For example, our chairman, in his election advertisement, local papers titled "My 10 Top Priorities" listed first, protect our environments. I beg you to hold to that commitment. Thank you.
Lorraine Lambu.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Ms. Lambu, would you pull that mic down, please? So we can record you. Thank you.
I'm Lorraine Lambu from 272 Pine Lane. My commissioners, I remind you that God created this beautiful planet for us to live in, and it is our responsibility to take care of it. Wakulla County is a very important part of this earth because of its beauty. We have beautiful beaches, abundant water, above ground and beneath. We have been blessed. There is fishing, boating, water skiing, bird watching, beautiful wildflowers, so many things for us to enjoy here in this county. So we should not depend on the state or the federal government to protect all that we have. We have to do it ourselves and for the benefit of our children and our grandchildren. I want to protect what we have, and I know that you do too, because I love Wakulla County. I respect your intelligence to make right decisions for this county. It's ours to enjoy, so please vote to protect it by not changing our comp plan. Listen to the experts who have studied how the marshlands work for the benefit of us all, and if protected, will produce seafood for us to enjoy and other large and small animals to complete the food chain the way it was originally designed to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Howard Kessler.
Good evening, Commissioners. Howard Kessler. I speak to you this evening as Chairman of Concerned Citizens of Wakulla County, CCAL. You're about to vote on whether to schedule a public hearing to consider the text amendment to our comprehensive plan, eliminating certain wetlands protections. CCAL strongly opposes such an action. Everyone should oppose such an action. Certainly, every sitting commissioner on this board should by this time fully understand and realize the importance of wetlands. They are the lifeblood of Wakulla's commercials and sport fisheries. They are essential for our tourism. They save us at a minimum hundreds of thousands of dollars by reducing impacts of flooding. They protect our drinking water supplies and provide groundwater recharge. Wetlands provide flows of clean water to our rivers and estuaries. They are of great economic importance to our county and enhance our quality of life. These are all well-known facts, and yet, knowing this, it's mind-boggling that this board can even consider dismantling this county's modest wetland setbacks. You don't have to throw in a wetland to destroy them. You just have to develop close enough to it. Years of research, years of protection are about to be ignored, and for what end? When the wetlands ordinance were in effect, did it slow construction? No. Did it negatively affect our county's development? No. Did it cause the housing crash? No. Did it take away people's rights to build on their land? No. Was it bad for business? No. So what's the problem? What's the need to do away with this modest protection? To dismantle this regulation because you don't like regulation will harm not only our county, but also future generations. This regulation is good for our county, good for business. It pays multiple dividends to us by having this in place. Once you turn back the clock, once you reduce or remove these protections, it will be almost impossible to undo the damage, certainly not in our lifetimes. It takes many years and sometimes hundreds of years or more to restore destroyed wetlands if they can be restored. The citizens will have to pay for artificial flood controls, water purification, and other things to compensate for lost wetlands. It's madness to take a vote lasting a few seconds that would result in damage that may take decades, centuries, or may never ever be undone. Think what you are leaving your children, your grandchildren. I urge you to be stewards of your county and its vital wetlands and maintain our modest wetland protections. If you don't protect them, the state won't, the federal government won't. It's your responsibility. Vote against this advertisement. Vote against reducing and eliminating wetland protections. And if there's one thing I hope you hear, vote to protect our wetlands. Thank you.
Virginia Brock.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Virginia Brock. I am speaking for the Florida Wildlife Federation. We were in session all weekend discussing such issues. And I have a statement that I'd like read into the record that comes from the board and staff of the Florida Wildlife Federation. And it certainly isn't quite as lovely as the Sopchoppy Home Companion Group. I think they said it all, but maybe we need to say it again. Wakulla County's celebrated natural beauty brings jobs and revenue to the citizens. The county has recognized the need to protect Wakulla Springs and our aquifer and other wetlands, as evidenced by this document that we are now discussing. The present 75-foot setback standard for the county's wetlands which clean our drinking water and are essential for environmental quality, is therefore beneficial to our economy and our environment. Please keep the 75-foot setback standard. It is working. And I hope you haven't forgotten that some of us think it's okay to set our standards high. Thank you very much.
Sandy Tedder.
I'm Sandy Tedder, 178 Sandy Drive in Sopchoppy. And I couldn't have said it better than the folks that spoke before me or Mrs. Arts in saying that there are so many people out there that feel the same way. They're not here, but I think a majority of the people do feel that it would be totally wrong and going in the opposite direction than we need to be going in to make the changes that were advocated here. And we don't know the impacts of what that would do, but I think they would be bad for the people and future generations of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Hickman.
Thank you, Commissioners. I guess in this subject, I'm a little bit closer than some people are, since I have a very close relative who works for DEP. And I'm very knowledgeable over the fact that the Northwest Water Management District this year has had to cut their staff tremendously because the budgetary constraints that was placed upon them, they did not even have enough money to keep the people on to last to the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year. So they had to cut dramatically in their personnel. Now, I don't know how many of you realize that while permits are issued by the Northwest Water Management District, they're also supposed to be followed up on if there is a mitigation involved. And that mitigation is supposed to take place by the individual who has issued the permit. They have a time constraint on issuing the permits, and when they get an application, they have to issue a permit within so many days. So normally what happens is it goes to a mitigation bank where they're supposed to follow up in 3 years to see if the developer has been able to take care of the plant life that they had promised to do so and replace for the damage that they're doing with the building. What happens is that at the end of a year, because most of these folks, a lot of them straight out of college, this is their first job, a lot of them have got their years of experience and they have moved on to greener pastures, pardon the pun. But it's a situation where nobody remembers that this permit has been issued. They don't have a tickler file. I've spent a great deal of time in the Northwest Water Management District office. I've also spent a lot of time in DEP, and Heather, Commissioner Kessler, and Vic Lambeau, and a number of us met with DEP, and they are the ones that actually levy the penalties in the event that something goes wrong. So they have an interagency agreement there, and it's something that a great deal of time was spent on prior to passing the ordinance. I believe it was January '09 by a citizens group, and that citizens group spent hundreds of hours developing what we now have. And to just blow it away with a 10-minute vote, a 2-hour discussion, not listening to the people of Wakulla County, to me, is an atrocity. Thank you.
John Hedrick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and the public. I'm John Hedrick. I'm the chair of the Panhandle Citizens Coalition, which has its main headquarters in Tallahassee. CCAL has been affiliated with us for a number of years now, and we're in support of their position not to be changing the comprehensive plan on this. And I'm not going to reiterate a whole bunch of stuff, but I am going to just add one twist that I haven't heard yet in this, is that I understand the concerns about the state regulation diminishing. But just to give a little further backdrop on it, I must remind everyone that the ERP permitting for the Northwest Water Management District was not even in existence until within the last couple of years. And whatever we can get from it, be it diminished, I'd rather have it in addition to what you're already doing here in Wakulla County. So I come at this as an enforcement issue also. It's better to have more sets of eyes than just your own, potentially, on this, under the circumstances. So leave the comprehensive plan alone. I don't think, you may not get much from the state, but whatever you get is probably better than nothing. So I would rise in support of not having a hearing on this matter on the comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Bill Hickman.
I'm Gail Hickman. I live at 528 Hickorywood Drive. I just wanted to say the wetlands are extremely important to me. I believe that we should stick to the regulations that we have, And I believe it's sad that the board changes its political mind as commissioners change. Our comp plan should stay the same. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, you want to say something?
If it'll, I don't know what you're thinking, but let's dub it the Melissa compromise, I guess. If we would make it 35 feet and apply it only to waters of the United States, that would take care of my grief with isolated wetlands. That would still apply to all of your estuaries, rivers, and we still have all the additional buffers. But that's always been my grief, is that, especially now that the Water Management District regulates isolated wetlands. A few years ago, nobody regulated them. Then the Supreme Court, the Corps regulated them several years ago. The Supreme Court made a decision that they're not actually used for interstate commerce, so nobody regulated them for a while. That's when the county ordinance came in, when it was made aware that, hey, nobody's regulating isolated wetlands. But since '09, when the wetlands ordinance was adopted, the Water Management District has taken over jurisdiction of isolated wetlands. So if I would be happy with something, and if it's 35 feet to those wetlands defined as waters of the United States, which means they're contiguous with waters basically that can be used for interstate commerce. And it's very easy to define waters of the United States. Right, Heather? Yes.
I assume that it's everything that's not an isolated.
Jurisdictional, basically, is the old word. So I don't know if that helps you at all. But
I'll support Randy on that.
Okay. The Melissa compromise.
Yeah, call that the Melissa compromise.
Well, it's more narrow than Melissa's, because as it was pointed out by a DE expert at our previous meeting, the Northwest Florida Water Management District is only looking at isolated wetlands that are smaller than like half a mile or something, half an acre, I forget. And ours is at 500 square feet or whatever, I think, or 1,000.
Whatever, my opinion, again, but whatever the state decides to regulate, because remember, like I said earlier, a few years ago, nobody regulated isolated wetlands, and to my knowledge, there wasn't just a vast going in and a filling of wetlands either. I mean, people have said, did it slow down growth? No, but I know when there were no restrictions at all, I don't think there was a mass wetlands destruction either. So it was before the EAR, in my opinion, and I don't know if Heather agrees with me or not, but the way the wording was before the EAR, it said excluding inland swamps, bogs, which is counterintuitive because a wetland is first it says we're going to regulate wetlands, then it says we're going to exclude these areas, which by definition those are wetlands. So it really didn't make any sense, but in my mind the intention was, hey, we're not wanting this buffer to apply to, a swamp or a farm pond or isolated. So if it would be 35 feet, but we won't call it the complete Melissa compromise, but I'd like that applied only to waters of the United States. Let the Water Management District handle the isolated wetlands. They will have protection. We can't go out tomorrow and be filling isolated wetlands. They may not have the best staff in the world, has been pointed out by the public, but I think their staff, no offense to ours, are probably a little bit more knowledgeable in wetlands than ours are.
And I want to hear from Mike. I just want to say two more things. And I know you've said you don't want to bring back an ordinance, but again, I will be glad to discuss ordinance changes. I'm not going to support any changes to the comp plans. It's been there for 15 years. And my other concern is we turn things over to the state, and the state continues to slash funding. I don't imagine there being funding for any kind of regulatory protections at the state level at all in the next 2 to 3. I think they'll come back. I think the pendulum's going to swing.
Well, Alan, this comprehensive plan adopts the state regulations. So if someone violates a state law, even if the state doesn't enforce it, we can. That's like saying, well, you drive 65 through the middle of Crawfordville. Well, that's not a county law. It's a state law that the speed limit's 35. We can still enforce it.
But you're doing away with... Okay. I know your point.
Any more discussion? Okay, I guess it's up to me. No, we're through. Citizens. I don't have it. Something got got stuck here. Let's see. No, no card.
You filled out one for citizens to be heard.
Okay, come on.
Do you also want to speak at Citizens to be Heard also?
Michael West, I'll just do this. Michael West, 107 Hudson Lane. Gentlemen, ma'am, thank you. Ms. Arch, thank you very much for standing up for the people and discussing this matter the way you did. The problem with changing it to 35 feet is nothing. It's ridiculous. And what I don't understand is saying, well, we'll rely on the state. You rely on the state, that's like relying on the federal government. And the way I look at it, if we keep it here in Wakulla County, managed by people of Wakulla County, we'll protect our county and let the state go on about their business. And I don't quite understand, Mr. Merritt, what's the big deal about changing it to 35? I know some of your arguments and listen to it. Isn't it better to sit back and say, let's be more cautious and rely on caution, and down the road, if we see that there is possible change that need to be made, we can move in that direction. Right now, I don't see it. The way the economy is right now, we want people to come to Wakulla and enjoy it. Fishing, hunting, Wakulla Springs. Look at Wakulla Springs. The past 3 years, the water has improved. Why? Because of the ordinance we've had, protecting our wetlands. And you said, well, swamps are an exception. Sir, swamps are connected to the aquifer, our drinking water, which is also connected to the rivers, the estuaries, and all that. Okay. Well, I just wanted to point that out, sir. So they're all connected. And I think this board would do a great disservice to our county, not only environmentally, economically, by changing to 35 feet. So I thank you for allowing me to speak, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mike, I just want you to remember when we passed the wetlands ordinance 5-0 vote. I thought that was a good vote for Wakulla County. So remember that sentiment.
Really trying to make me feel guilty, aren't you?
I hope you don't flip-flop on this.
No, I've given this a lot of thought and had some people call me today. Or I called them. They sent emails, and I called them back, and it made a lot of sense what they said to me. And I think we need to leave alone what we have. Leave the 75 foot in the. We have an adequate wetlands ordinance that will allow variances. So I'm fine with like it is. I think it's the right thing to do for the environment, and like Mr. Lambu pointed out, that was in my campaign, and I'm going to stay good to that promise that I'm going to protect the wetlands. I've always, and I believe in that. I was born and raised here, and I want to die here. And and some of you want that to be sooner than later, but that's okay. But the idea is that I want to see my grandkids grow up in a pristine county and be able to do the same things that I did with my dad, and I want them to be able to do the same things with their dad. So, with that said, I'm in for with Ms. Arts to overturn it and not have the hearing. So,
I guess it's kind of like putting down an old dog. You hate to see it, but I'm glad it's over. So.
All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you.
Next item is.
Can't say I didn't try. That was our only general business item, Commissioner. Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You want to? All right, we'll move on then to item 18 has been removed, so our table, so we'll go back to citizens to be heard.
Citizens to be heard.
Now, if you haven't gotten a card in, put it in now, because we're not just going to keep adding cards, folks. We've got to try to get business done. First is Ralph Thomas.
Good evening, Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunters Trace. Last meeting we attended, Commissioner Stewart told me he didn't trust my numbers that I provided. Tonight, Commissioner Arts told me that my ad had errors in it, and I'd just like to say publicly, but if that's true and there are errors in it, please point out the facts of that, and I'll be glad to pay for a new ad. I'll apologize and I'll make the corrections in it. But I think as the resolution was adopted, the ad was correct at that time.
And I appreciate the sentiment of trying to educate the public. So.
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean that sincerely. If I'm wrong, I'm a big man. I'm not worried about being wrong. We're all wrong, and so I can admit that if that happens. You approve the consent agenda tonight to change the threshold, and I'm just wondering if you've still done the numbers. I hope this is not a second mistake on the same item. I just want to make a couple comments. 25% of Wakulla County households earn less than $25,000 annually. 15% of Wakulla County households fall below the federal poverty limit, and that limit is lower than the amount that you approved tonight. So reasonably, we can understand that more than 15% of the people are going to now be exempt from this. And if only 15% are exempt, that's $359,625 that you guys are going to have to find where it's going to come from right now, this coming October 1st, this new budget year. I've heard that the money's going to come from the franchise fee. I asked on September 6th what's going to happen with that money at the franchise fee, and I was told that money is going to be used for monitoring, it's going to be used for ongoing efforts of the landfill. Now I hear that it's going to go for the hardship assessment, and it seems to me that the hardship waiver is going to be more than the amount of the franchise fee, and I don't understand the resolution says that any amount for the waiver cannot come from the solid waste assessment. It must come from any other legal source. And so the franchise fee ultimately comes from the $196 that's assessed to taxpayers of it. So it seems to me, I'm not an attorney, but it seems to me that it comes from that same pot of funds that is prohibited in the resolution. So who will be eligible for it? I think there's a lot more people. We probably run in different circles, obviously, because I run into a lot of people all day, every day that are having it hard, and things are getting worse and not better. So I think a lot more people will be exempt from this than you realize. Every single mother with one child who earns less than $11.51 an hour will be exempt. That's a lot of people. Every single mother with two children who earns less than $12.96 an hour will be exempt. Every senior citizen who lives alone, by herself or by himself, that earns less than $1,745 a month will be exempt. Every senior citizen couple who combined earn less than $1,995 a month will be exempt. Every family of four who earns less than $29,900 will be exempt. That may be with a stay-at-home mom. That may be with a single income because one of the folks have lost their job. But there's a lot of people that's going to be exempt by this, and I hope your numbers work out, but I think you're still off the mark on it. But thank you.
I'd like to point something out briefly, if I could, that all the numbers Ralph just said about the 15%, remember, all those people have to own their own home. I'm sure a lot of people living at poverty level don't own their own home. I just wanted to make sure that's
16.2% of the population is rental property.
Okay. Dana Peck?
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I was beginning to think with this wetlands debate that you all were going to earn the name the Demolition Commission because you seem dedicated to destroying everything that comes across your desk. You're a county commission who says you want tourism, which is based on fishing and sports and all kinds of outdoor life, and yet you would even contemplate destroying the wetlands. And I guess for development purposes, either to profit personally or in your next campaign from contributions. But tell that to the 400 or 500 people who have houses that are empty here for sale, that you would like to destroy the wetlands to build more houses, and see how happy they are at the idea of having even more houses in competition with those sales. You lowered the millage rate somewhat, a smidgen, and I guess you'll leave this meeting a little proud of that. But at the same time, what you probably won't be proud of is that you jacked up the taxes on everything that just about moves in this county. And the people who are going to be socked the hardest are the people who are least likely to be able to pay. You have jacked up these taxes on the essentials of life: electric, gas, water, phones, sewer, fire protection, keep on going. And for some reason, I guess you think that's a good thing to do. While all the while you have sat on the sheriff's budget, and don't mention his cuts, because the sheriff gets a huge portion of this county's property taxes, if not 2 out of every $3. You've been told about the wasteful spending of the sheriff. He spends like a drunk Donald Trump on steroids. The problem is Trump spends his dollars, the sheriff spends ours. You have been told that he bought trucks for himself and his 2 buddies, Major Langston and Chief Deputy Donnie Crum. Then one of you mentioned that the sheriff's Major Langston returned his truck. I think admission enough that that's a really bad thing to do, and yet you don't challenge the spending. The sheriff has a top-heavy office. He has more brass in his department than the whole of Leon County, and yet you turned a blind eye to his budget and do not go over it line by line. I think you should have no bragging going on at all tonight. I don't think you have done the tough job you would like to think that you have done. I think if you want to be proud, just remove yourselves from the commission and let new people take over who will get this commission on the right track.
Sherry Cartledge.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you. My name is Sherry Cartledge, and I'm a disabled veteran, and I live in Panacea, Florida, Summer Trace Apartments. It's a community for disabled and elderly. We're here tonight to beg you to help us with our Panacea area water system. We just received notice that we are going to be having yet another increase in our water bill. We are now paying a minimum of $48.11 a month. That's going to go up to a minimum of $50.16 a month. I do not receive Social Security. I live strictly on my disability from the VA. However, and there's 5 other veterans down there, but the rest of us are disabled. They live on Social Security. They haven't gotten an increase in their payments, but we are getting an increase in the bills, and we're struggling to pay a water bill. We live in a single bedroom apartment with no washer, no dishwasher. We can't even have gardens anymore because we can't afford to water our yards. And we spoke with a commissioner when this first started happening to us, and they told us that there wasn't anything we could do because it was privately owned. And I'm not ready to accept that. We can't do something because we've got to have help. Some of us are doing without medication to pay a water bill. One lady receives $48 a month in food stamps to last her the whole month, and her water bill is $48.11 minimum. Now, if you use anything more than that, of course, your bill is going to be higher. If you call the water company and ask for help, or to allow you to break it up and make payments, they tell you no, it must be paid in full and on time, or you will be charged a $5 late fee for water and a $5 late fee for sewage. We can't afford it, and like I said, I'm a proud American, and I'm not ready to accept that there's nothing that we can do for our citizens and our senior people down there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Linda Perkins.
My name is Linda Perkins, and I also live at Summer Trace Apartments. In January, my meter read $119,600, and in October, it was $130,400. Now, someplace between January and October, I've managed to use 10,000 gallons of water. My living has not changed. The majority of people that live down there buy their water or go to Walmart and exchange water. They don't like the taste of it. I myself have a son in Woodville who has a well that brings me water. Now, I live alone, 2 cats. I don't have visitors that come and shower. I don't have a garden. My bathing's the same. I have no children's pools, no bird baths. I wash my dishes once a day, no washer. And I was told at one meeting I'd gone to a couple of years ago, it would be looked into, but we've not heard anything. We have not had Social Security increase in 3 years, but everything just keeps on going up and up and up. And I feel that the minimum is way too high to have to pay $51 when we really don't have that much use of our water. We have to go to the laundromat monthly or weekly or however we go, and that costs $2.50 if you have one load of wash. And I'm sure if you got, you know, a family or just yourself, it costs more. So in addition to what we have to pay for water, we have to pay for laundry services. Thank you.
Ms. Perkins, you said let me clarify, you said you went to a meeting. Was that a meeting
Yeah.
of the...
Oh, there's a water board at Posey's a couple of years ago.
I just want to be sure, we have absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever over Panacea area water.
Do not talk. Could you please come to the mic, ma'am? I apologize.
I wrote a letter to to Representative Bembry, and his secretary called me, and also Bill Mumford's secretary called me, and they suggested that we start here. That's why we're here.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
And I want to try to, and I think we all want to try to help. I'm going to ask our attorney, what courses of action do we have, if any?
I don't know if most likely PAWS is regulated by the Florida Public Service Commission as far as their rates. They're not regulated by the county. Commissioner Merritt is completely
So who do we lobby? Them?
If they are regulated, but there's a certain utilities are exempt from even PSC jurisdiction. I don't think PAWS is one of them, but I don't know.
I think they are exempt.
Are they? I don't know their makeup.
They're like
off
the city of
top my head.
Sockchoppy, David. They're not in the P.
Well, cities and counties are not generally regulated, but
One part of what they might be talking about is it could be their combined water and sewer bill.
Is that what you have as a combined water sewer bill is $48? Okay.
We do have jurisdiction over sewer, just not the water. Okay.
And also, as a side note, if you're having, this is always true, they're going to talk later to check out the Capital Area Community Action Agency office there across from Duck's Liquors near TCC on the highway. They can help with financial assistance for utility bills.
Okay. Let us work on it. I'm not going to make you any promises because I don't know how much leverage we have with the water folks, but we'll look at it. Melanie Fogel.
My name is Melanie Fogel, and I also live out in Summer Trace. And with the rising cost of water, I just want to point out that there's only $30 difference in what I pay for water and what I pay for electric. And many times my water is either blue, clear, or it smells really bad. And this is a continuing cycle that's been going on out there, and it really needs some attention because we cannot use the water for cooking or drinking or preparing anything like that. And it's become a great concern of everyone in that community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Calhoun.
Renee Calhoun, 211 Bettywood Circle. I'm concerned about the fact when dealing with county tax dollars, you rely only on what county staff tells you and apparently don't check the facts for yourself. 2 weeks ago, you disregarded citizen input and passed ordinances that increased taxes on the residents of this county. Now here we are 2 weeks later, and you're already amending the ordinance. Citizens questioned the numbers presented to the board by staff, and you were told they were off. Then you voted for something that was presented to you as a savings when in fact it had a deficit. Obviously, the garbage issue was not researched enough prior to mandating that tax on citizens. How in the world did you not know that up to 40% of the county could qualify for a hardship assistance? If your staff is wrong and their numbers are still off, and there is a deficit next year, then what? Are you going to then say, oops, and then raise the tax again? This is clearly bad management. The next issue I'm concerned about is the fact that no other insurance company will even bid for the county legal insurance because you and your staff have such a high number of losses. Another probable reason for no other company wanting to touch this county with a 10-foot pole was because of the fact there are so many pending lawsuits against this board and staff. And after some of the stunts that have been pulled lately, they knew there would probably more be coming. No action by you or any county employee should result in a lawsuit. The fact there is such a high number of losses that other companies won't even bid on is proof something's broken. Whether it's bad management or bad advice that leads you to make so many bad decisions, commissioners, one thing is for sure, things have got to change. The first thing you need to do is stop ignoring and belittling citizen input and start listening to us. There are lots of us that have done our research and are far more knowledgeable about some issues than your paid staff. Stop raising our taxes to pay for your mistakes.
Howard Kessler.
Howard Kessler speaking as a private citizen. Thank you. And thank you for the wetlands vote. Going back a few years when there was funding, Northwest region was always underfunded, 5 cents to the dollar what other regions got. Enforcement here in our county was marginal at best. And now with these slashes, we can't expect any help from them of significance. The citizens elect you as a board and expect you as commissioners to promote the general good and follow the laws of county, state, and country. But this buck stops with you. It's our county. It's your responsibility. And it's a true pleasure to witness the board when they seriously attempt to resolve an issue and to work out for the best possible solution while respectfully considering citizens' input. That often does not happen. The board seems to think that ignoring or muzzling the very citizens who elect them will make problems go away. A few examples. When citizens made requests of all 5 commissioners to pull an item off the consent agenda so the citizens could address the board about it, not one commissioner asked that this be done. And it only takes one commissioner to pull a consent agenda item. Example 2. When citizens pointed to problems in purchasing policy, the commissioners quickly adjourned a meeting that was scheduled to discuss that very issue. Third example, when citizens documented ethical problems in the county government, their concerns were summarily dismissed, and one commissioner even said that he threw away that documentation. Because of the county's dire fiscal situation, the board had required employees to take unpaid furlough days, which resulted in a pay cut of more than 20%. And at the same time, the board authorized raises for other employees. The board either ignored or attacked the citizens who pointed this out. It's the board's responsibility to ensure that the county staffers do their work legally and properly. It is not enough to refer citizens to the Ethics Commission, as was suggested in the past. The board has the responsibility to investigate and to take action when action is needed, when information is brought to them by the citizens. Our government has lasted for over 200 years because citizens have been vigilant and speak up when their government goes astray. Commissioners, please listen to and consider what your constituents have to say. In doing so, we can create a better Wakulla County for all. Thank you.
Virginia Brock.
Virginia Brock, 311 Old Magnolia Road. Thank you. I should have done this under announcements, I assume, but I wasn't fast enough sitting on the floor, so just have to excuse me. The League of Women Voters meeting is Thursday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. at the Public Library. We hope that all of you, other citizens, anyone here, anyone who can hear this announcement or who has read it in the newspaper will join us. We would like to remind you that open, transparent, and accountable government is an important component to the League of Women Voters mission. To that end, we have invited Jerry Cooey, a member of the First Amendment Foundation's Sunshine Brigade, to speak. The Sunshine Brigade designation is earned by private citizens' efforts at keeping government open. Mr. Cooey is from the Santa Rosa County, Milton area. He is well known for his work in keeping government open and accountable to the citizens. The League of Women Voters will have refreshments, including my very often requested venison chili, a question and answer session after Mr. Cooey's talk, and a short meeting to elect officers will be going on. I'd like to ask you to join us, and just because it says League of Women Voters, we do encourage men to join us. I've participated in the Tallahassee League often, and they have as many men members as women, so please, gentlemen, join us as well. We want you to all become members. Thank you.
Vaughn Mikeworth.
My name is Vaughn Mikeworth, 48 Sonia Lynn Street. Thank you for hearing me this evening, Commissioners. I'm rising in agreement in your item number 14, which was not withdrawn. I should have spoke to one of you as Commissioners to get that withdrawn for discussion. I have a situation where I have a guest house that's used 3 times a year. It's going to be taxed for the solid waste disposal as well as for the fire assessment. For less than 500 square feet, that's going to cost me almost $300 a year. So if you compare that to what you all have on your real estates, I'm paying much, much more than you all are on your real estates. I have a small house, 1,700 square feet, 2-bedroom, one of those is an office. So I would hope that you would consider this for residents like myself that have an outbuilding that's used only for out-of-town guests that come in. We don't generate any more solid waste in normal times, and also in regards to the fire protection. Thank you.
Okay. Heather, we did talk about the accessory structure thing, and that's not going to, I don't want to get into discussion about this, but if someone has, like I got a pool house, it's not going to get a separate garbage tax bill, because it's an accessory structure to the main structure, correct?
It depends on how it's listed on by the property appraiser. Okay. If it's an accessory structure, those are not typically picked up. If it's considered a primary structure and a dwelling unit, it would be. So it just depends.
Does it have a bathroom and shower in it?
It's a guest house.
But you can have a mother-in-law suite on your property too.
So,
and it's considered an accessory
I reckon
structure.
for anybody with situations like that, call our office.
Exactly.
And we will follow up.
Really?
Yes.
We have several people answering phones in our office. Call our office and we'll follow up with you. And if you have a problem, you can then ask for us.
You can call me personally if you want me to. Okay.
That was going to be my. If they told you to come here, call us individually.
Michael West.
Michael West, 107 Hudson Lane. Most of these folks have already said what I want to say, but real quick, has the board already signed a contract with Waste Pro? Has it already been signed, official, all that?
We're not going to debate it, Mr. West.
No, I mean, has it been signed? That's all. Well, my question is going to be this. In that contract, does it state that funding is tied to, I mean, I know it falls in the property taxes, but property taxes are annually funded. Does it state that in the contract? Maybe I should ask your attorney.
Yes.
Yeah. It does say that.
For the first year, they get paid 1/12, but the first payment's not due until December, so that gives the county the ability to have their property tax revenue come in.
What? We don't normally answer questions during citizens to be heard.
Okay. Well, excuse me.
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't quite.
We'll be glad to address it.
Appreciate it. I mean, should I contact you?
Sure.
To get others? Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all the citizens be heard. We want to move ahead.
Oh, yeah.
General, where we at?
Why don't you know now?
County Attorney? Not for citizens to be heard. Not for citizens to be heard.
I put a card there.
Yes, ma'am, for an...
Just let her talk.
You have a card in for item number 14. That was on the consent agenda.
Well, I asked the young lady because I wasn't sure, and she said what I wanted was supposed to be on there. That's not right.
No, ma'am, but come on up here. I'll allow you to speak. The action's already been taken on the items, but we can hear you. And
Oh, boy, they didn't get my card here.
By the way, I want to thank the people that come up and as helping the seniors and everybody else in that trash pickup. But I would ask if you go down to the senior center and talk to these people before you really come up with dollar amounts. Some are confined to bed. They don't even read the paper to know about this. And I have a lady friend who brought in IRS paperwork and brought it in for the freebies for the seniors. You might went down there and got yours. She is confined to home, but she takes care of herself in her home. This is very important. Also, what is the dollar amount, or has it been discussed, the low income dollar amount? I've been asked for that.
Do you think it'd be helpful for us maybe to reach out to RH and...
They don't even know how to fill out the forms, by the way.
I'm talking about RH at the senior center. Maybe he could put something out there that folks could see that do visit the senior center.
But that doesn't get to the people that are confined.
Maybe their friends will come there, ma'am.
Though she don't know more.
Okay.
She can't walk.
Just an idea.
I think Jessica was planning on, and I don't want to speak for Jessica, but I think she was planning on putting a release out tomorrow after the vote tonight to discuss the details.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
We're doing our best to publicize the message and get it out to the public. We're going to, I think we might send someone to the senior center to make sure RH is on message and help getting it out. We're putting another press release out in the paper tomorrow. And we encourage people to continue to apply to see if they qualify.
Is there a way that someone go down there and sit down them with the paperwork and say, this is how we do it?
To the senior center?
See what's on.
Yeah, we'll make sure someone goes to the senior center. We'll have our staff reach out to RH. If we can't send a staff member, I'll go down there and talk to people.
You're using initials that I don't understand.
RH Carter is director.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I will, and if we don't have staff that can go, I will go, and we will take, and I will go talk to them at lunchtime.
Okay, the other one I asked, what is the low income dollar amount? Has it been discussed yet?
Now maybe we can cut this a little bit short. The
That's
fellow
all I want to ask.
Okay, the fellow behind you, get his name and number, and he can help you, and y'all can do that at some other time.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you very much.
I think if someone qualifies for the, if someone, ma'am,
Oh, someone has
if someone qualifies for the hardship exemption, I think they would pay zero.
Correct.
Wait a minute. You're saying the hardship, but it was in the paper, the low income dollar amount.
That's considered, that would be, that's how we define who experiences hardship.
Oh. So I was down there the other day and nobody knew.
Okay. But, and you might want to touch base with Jessica too. She's our information officer, and she'll be the one helping to get the forms out, collecting forms.
We as a board put staff in bad position is what it boils down to. We take full I take full responsibility. We should have looked at that a little harder about what the income limits were. I should have looked at it harder, but we corrected it tonight to be very low income. They couldn't give you a definitive answer because they didn't know until tonight. So if you want to fault anybody, it's our fault really, because everything really, buck has to stop with us.
Well, but that's also what I said at the very beginning. This has been on a fast track.
Right.
You know, a lot of decisions are being made in a short amount of time. We're trying to get information out, but, you know, we recognize there's still lots of questions and some confusion, and we're trying to get the word out.
But these woke someone up.
I admired your spunk.
Why can't you use the dollar amount that the IRS takes?
Ma'am, we've already voted on this, and
Oh, it is voted?
yes, ma'am, it's done.
Oh, okay. Again, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Brock?
Yeah, thank y'all very much. One of the, and we all have these same concerns regarding our historic neighborhoods, Wakulla Gardens, Tafflinger. I want to try. Are there any cards tonight, Jessica, on this issue? Okay. I'd like to have us have a workshop. If you can read the options, in large part, what I want to do is actually, we've looked a lot to state or federal monies to try and fix these situations, and I don't see state or federal monies coming. And I want to have a conversation about if they aren't coming, what our next steps should be.
Alan, I'll go along, but I would encourage maybe staff to pull the minutes from the past workshops that have talked about the same thing, and because I know a CRA was discussed with Wakulla Gardens. I know that was talked about. And I know that MSBUs were, Ron, you were on the infrastructure committee back when we talked. Yeah, we talked about MSBUs. I'm not saying I'm always willing to talk, but I just want to make sure that we're not rehashing.
Well, and yeah, and that's the goal of this, though. I want to see us actually, and if we decide not to do anything, like if we decide not to do an MSBU, we decide not to put on the ballot and let the citizens vote on it, I think we should make some action where we make an extra level of notification of people buying in them. Because what frustrates me is we have many citizens who live there who call and say, well, I was told this was going to happen in 6 months.
I don't want people to think that we're going to meet to discuss whether or not to pave the roads in Wakulla Gardens. That's not what we're meeting. I guess we're meeting about. Well, if we did want to do that, how in the world will we pay for it?
Right, one of the next steps, because I know on tonight's Heather has a document in here about how much it costs to put water in there. But also talking about, I know that Commissioner Stewart's talked about trying to get stormwater in there and trying to figure out how to fund that. Talking about roads, I know we have at least one citizen here from Wakulla Gardens who's really concerned about the roads. 5 citizens here from Wakulla Gardens who are really concerned about the roads. Trying just to figure out how we're going to fix it and what our next step should be, and if we aren't going to fix it, I think it becomes our duty to make sure people know we aren't going to fix it.
I do like your idea, however, of putting something on a 2012 general ballot or some sort of, let's let them decide if they want to pay for paving their roads and they vote to pay for it. Let's do it. But that's, I do agree with that part.
But a greater priority for that neighborhood than road paving, which I think the citizens here are concerned a lot about road paving, but it's also we have to get sewer in there so that we can clean up the water supply coming in. There's too many people living too close together on septic tanks. Fix the stormwater so the neighborhood isn't flooding, and get people on fresh water supply, because you have people in there with wells in front of their house and a septic tank behind their house going down lines of roads, and that it's not ideal.
But it is very allowable by the Department of Health standards.
Very allowable by Department of Health standards. Not
saying anybody did anything illegal is what I'm saying.
Right. No, right. I'm just saying it's not ideal.
Right. So there's high iron in the water out there too.
But I want to see us do something. None of y'all filled out cards to talk about it because I was expecting. But afterwards, we're almost done. I'm glad to talk with y'all more. But yeah, I'd like to make a motion to schedule a workshop to discuss this more.
Lynn, watch this.
Second, but I agree with Randy's suggestion. Let's make sure as background information we have all the various proposals we've looked at before.
We've already hashed over why the board didn't proceed down that route.
And if we have any cost estimates, I'd like to have them at the meeting also. I know that we had some cost estimates on sewer in the past, and they might be a little old, but we can at least look at them. Heather just put water ones in here. I think we can make a rough estimate of what it costs to pave the roads, and we have a rough idea because of the study of how much it'll cost to do stormwater.
Maybe we could get an update on the ongoing stormwater study that's being done for Wakulla Gardens right now.
And one of the big things that I want to talk about, and when we talk about this, is much like our transfer station loan, which we decided not to move forward with, it's a good time to finance something like that, because the interest rates are low and labor is low, so we could accomplish things cheaper now. The loan we did not end up taking was for 37 years, would have been very low payments. We could do something similar like that in the gardens or Tafflinger.
Can we combine it with another workshop? We got any workshops coming up soon? I'd rather get them over in one night, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't propose a date. I always just defer to Jessica for them.
I don't want to give these folks.
October 6th, but I don't know if
The
they'll
10th
get
would probably
staff.
best.
I don't want to give these you folks that are here from the gardens a false hope that we're going to come pave your roads if that's what you're expecting, because we're.
That's what I was saying.
I don't want to hear you. I'm telling you this so you can understand that we are not in a position to pave roads, because until we get stormwater put in, I'm not going to vote to pave a road, because what you're going to have then is you're going to be floating your house away, because all that's impervious surface and all that rain's got to go somewhere, and then the county's responsible for having created that hazard, and then we're going to be on the hook. We can't do that. We have to get the stormwater. We have talked this to death.
Well,
I'm fine with talking. Let me finish. You've talked all night, Alan. Let me talk a minute. The whole idea is that we have talked about this for years, and trying to get stormwater. It's an expensive proposition. We're talking millions of dollars, and we're trying our best to find. The staff's been working on trying to get grants. We're in the grant process. Our engineer, who's here tonight, is working that as hard as he can to get us a grant to come in and put the infrastructure in for the stormwater. But we're talking millions of dollars, guys, and we can't pave the roads until we can do something with the water. And y'all know best of all. I mean, I have chased this as hard as anybody has. And, I know y'all are upset in part because of the stuff, the gravel we put on the roads. It's dusty. I know all that, but it's certainly better than what we had. Now, can it be better? Yes. We've all talked about paving roads in there, but until we get stormwater in there, we can't pave any roads. So I don't want to give y'all a false hope, because we're going to have workshops again. We've already had 100 of these things, and we're going to rehash the same stuff again. But I'm not going to vote to pave a road until we get stormwater.
Right. And what I'm hoping comes out of this is hopefully getting something along the lines of getting something on the ballot for them to make a choice about themselves. If they don't want to do it, but have the conversation.
That's fine. I'm not going to vote for an MSBU to put on anybody unless they vote on it themselves.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
If you want to assess yourselves, then fine. We'll let you assess yourselves. But it's going to be not going to be a light amount. I can tell you that.
But I think the neighborhood should be aware that you have a choice of, we can do this and put it on the ballot and they can assess themselves, or it could be another easy decade before they see some of the improvements that they're looking for.
Okay.
So that's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
October 6th, what's on October 6th?
No, she said they need more time, November 10th. October 6th is too fast.
What's on the 10th? Nothing. All right, Alan.
So November 10th.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to do a workshop on
a week after mine.
These historic subdivisions. Any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item is Commissioner Arch. You have 3 there.
Okay, thank you. The first one is concerning, this is a follow-up to an item that we discussed it on August 15th. Todd Kincaid made a very sobering presentation and made clear the relationship between Wakulla Spring and Spring Creek, the negative impacts of increasing withdrawals and declining groundwater flows within the spring sheds, and the importance of water conservation, limiting future withdrawals and keeping any water that is withdrawn within the spring sheds. And others spoke of the importance of protecting groundwater and estuaries elsewhere in Wakulla County. This board then asked me to go back and revise the ordinance to broaden its scope so we protect Wakulla Spring and Spring Creek spring sheds in their entirety and the waters of Wakulla County in their entirety. So you have a revised resolution before you that is making requests both of the North Florida Water Management District and the Georgia Water Council.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with striking out item 3. I think the purpose was if we're talking about protecting the spring sheds, and that's what it should be about, not about pumping water and transporting it.
I'll second.
Second to take out 3?
kind of redundant to me. I mean, what you're basically what's saying is if you're not inside the spring, it says you can't take it outside the spring shed, and then the next sentence it says you can't take it outside Wakulla County.
Because the spring shed
Then why not just say don't take it outside Wakulla County?
Okay, let me clarify.
You have a
I
motion on the
finished?
floor to approve it. If you don't want to second that motion, then you don't have to, but she don't have to make the change.
Okay.
You can make the second
I thought he
for
did so.
discussion.
Shit, okay.
Usually the person who's presenting their item, it's assumed they're making the motion.
All right,
So, and
we
I,
have a motion then to approve it as written.
okay, can
then we
I
have
go through what it does?
Yes, ma'am, hold on.
Okay.
Then we have a second, is that right?
I was seconding Randy's.
But apparently I can't make a motion because it wasn't my item. Is that correct? I can't make a motion?
You
There is
can, if
anything
this
in the rules,
dies.
you can make a
If you
motion.
want to make a second to her motion, then we'll...
I don't know.
I'll second Ms. Arts just for discussion.
Okay, there you go.
I just want to clarify. I'm sure Ms. Arts, did you make a motion? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you if you did.
I wasn't quite there yet, but that's,
So she didn't make a
it's
motion.
my item to be,
I understand.
What were you-
know.
What were we seconding?
Randy said I'll make a motion without this line, and I seconded that. That was the only line I had a problem
I
with.
may have stepped over protocol, I don't know.
No.
But I think legally I can make
I
the motion.
misunderstood.
Okay.
So the motion on...
Thank you.
Have that motion standing? Okay.
That's right.
So that motion stands?
Yes.
And we have a second
Yes.
with the motion to approve striking number 3.
I hadn't even gotten through what the resolution does.
I read it. I
You
read
can still
it.
get there,
All
Ms.
right,
Arts.
okay.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Arts, and finish.
Okay, the request that we were making of the Northwest Florida Water Management District was to make water conservation a priority and to slow the rise in consumptive use withdrawals. Also, to deny any permit to pump water from the ground or surface water bodies within and transport that water outside of the Wakulla Spring and Spring Creek spring sheds, which is part of Wakulla County. It's a good part of Leon County on up to the Georgia border. And then the third item is to ask the Water Management District to deny any permit to pump water from the ground or surface water bodies within and transport that water outside the boundaries of Wakulla County, because there are rivers, there's our estuaries, there are ephemeral ponds, our drinking water that we want to protect even if it's outside the spring shed. And then the fourth request was that the Water Management District establish minimum flows and levels for the Wakulla River, including the flows at both Wakulla and Spring Creek Springs and the St. Marks River without further delay. And we lastly asked the Water Management District to compile and publish all permitted and actual extractions on a yearly basis. And a subset of that was going to the Georgia Water Council, asking them to make water conservation within the spring sheds that are up in Georgia a priority, to deny any permits to pump outside the spring shed, and to give us information on permitted and actual extractions within the Georgian portion of the spring shed. So we're being very broad in terms of we're looking at the entirety of the spring shed, even going up into Georgia, and then we're being very broad in Wakulla County and looking at all of the water systems within our own county. And I thought that based on the advice of experts, on the comment that came from the board about wanting to be more broad, the comments that came from citizens, that was where we wanted to go as a board.
I think number 2 addresses all the concerns brought up that night perfectly. And I personally, when I ran for this office, I'm not campaigning, I know it's over, but I always said I never had a problem with pumping water out of the ground if it's permitted by the water managers. I still don't have a problem with that, personally. But everyone I talk to, I can't really maybe find 1 or 2 people in support of it. My job is supposed to be to represent the citizens. So I'll support this. You know, if we're doing this to protect the springs, then it should be the spring shed, like Dr. Kincaid said, and not just say you can't take water out of Smith Creek and drive it up to Leon County. That's a water pumping issue. That has nothing to do with protecting the springs, in my opinion.
But it has to do with protecting our water
Why not say that everywhere?
ground level.
Why not say that all of Florida, all of Georgia, all of Alabama, all the United States don't pump any groundwater? Same analogy applies. I mean,
Well, but this is our, it's our county boundary.
I don't think realistically anyone's going to want to go out. No one's going to want to go to Smith Creek instead of a bottled water company because there's.
Don't count on it.
Well, again, this was Commissioner Moore. This was one of his issues. He wanted to see all of Wakulla County. Mr. Lambu spoke.
Well, if our motion fails, then we'll.
Todd gave a presentation. He's an expert on the spring, so we heard the case for the spring shed, but we heard from other people about the value of protecting other areas, other rivers within the county. I know Chuck Hess isn't here tonight, but he talked about there are ephemeral ponds where there are species that are going extinct because our groundwater levels are dropping. So why would we want to further?
Would you agree, Ms. Arch, though, that if you leave in item 3, item 2 is completely and utterly redundant?
No, they don't match exactly.
I believe in our comp plan. It says to remove any water from Wakulla County takes a 4/5 vote.
That's correct. Yes.
Then what are we talking about? We already have it takes a 4/5 vote for somebody to get a permit to remove water.
Well.
So it's already, unless you want a vote that says it's got to be all 5, but right now we have to have a supermajority in the comp plan to remove water, not from the springs, but anywhere in the county.
Correct.
I think, Jerry, this is simply...
It's a request to the water management.
This is simply asking the Water Management District to deny the permit. It still has to come before us. Even if they do approve it, as they did in the case of Mr. High, they would still have to come before us. What Ms. Arch's resolution is doing and saying, hey, Water Management District, we want you to deny them up there before they even get to us. And I agree with you. You're right. The 4/5 thing is there.
Okay. Let's hear the citizens, and then we'll vote and see where this motion goes. Howard Kessler.
Well, CCAL is in favor of the resolution as it stands. I think CCAL would be supportive of the resolution with, as suggested, amended. It's a good resolution, but it's, I think, better in its completion. I have a problem, speaking personally for a second, not as for the concerned citizens. When we rely solely on government agencies and expect them to take care of us, it doesn't work. And the Water Management District has a history of being understaffed and permitting way beyond what reasonably, I think, should be permitted. So I think the more we control our local area, the better it is going to be for the citizens of Wakulla County. Thank you.
Vic Bamboo.
Vic Lambu, 272 Pine Lane. I think you should support the resolution as Lennart's introduced it. Water is finite. We have a finite supplies. We need to keep that water in this county, and that's the priorities what it should be used to. There's not enough water to go around. There's been a history of people looking at the water here. There was some talk about pumping water from Wakulla County west, and there's also been the proposal for pumping water from the spring, from Spring Creek down into South Florida. And those were serious proposals. And so you should go on record for it. But I want to say one thing about the comp plan. I'm not sure if I understood Commissioner Moore's comment there, but you do not have the authority to stop pumping water from the ground here. That's only the Water Management District. You don't have the authority to do it. They can issue it without it, and they can pump it. Now, you may be able to try to do some other things to stop them from moving it and so forth, or putting in an industrial plant. But you cannot stop, no matter what vote you have, from them pumping water out of the ground here. That's the Water Management District. They have that authority by the legislature law. Thank you.
That's my understanding also.
Ron Pasecki?
Ron Pisecki, 137 Royster. Thank you for letting me speak again. I'm glad we're getting there. Last month when we met, we had a recommended resolution, and I was pleased that the board wanted to expand it. We initially proposed the spring sheds, and I know there was a lot of concern about the Ocklawakanee River, Sopchoppy River, the fishermen and the waters, the creeks and all that coming in outside of the spring sheds. There was also concern that it stopped at the county border, so you wanted to go up into the four counties and north into South Georgia. We applaud that. Again, like I said, our original proposal was the 2 spring sheds, but the more water quality you can protect, the better off you are. And I'll just say one other point. Our hydrogeology consortium, where Todd Kincaid's a member, we're meeting on Friday with the president of TCC, and Allison DeForest set this up. They have an interest in partnering with us in some other programs that they're looking at, which maybe would have a positive impact on future TCC role in Wakulla County. So I urge you to support this, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Okay. No more citizens. So any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor? All of them. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Brock.
I was just going to say, for me, this issue, I agree with Commissioner Merritt that the goal is to protect our spring sheds. It was the original idea discussed when it was first brought up to me, and that's how I'd like to see it move forward.
You're talking about the spring shed, not the county.
The way it's proposed right now is just for the spring sheds, not the whole county. But the spring sheds cover most of the whole county.
Let's not forget, if it didn't rain in Georgia outside of our county, there wouldn't be a Florida aquifer. I think we're getting a little too focused in on, don't take this jug of water over to the county line. I mean, it's a spring shed because it's a vast, huge area that has big tributary areas. It rains up north, it flows to us. So let's not lose sight of the forest for the trees.
When we have water crossing
Trees,
county lines
forest,
already,
whatever.
like the state of Tallahassee provides the water to the east side of the county. There's a lot of things that I just think staying in our spring shed makes the most sense to me.
And I agree with Mr. Brock.
Well, according to Mr. Lambo, it doesn't matter how we vote anyway, because the Water Management District can issue the permit.
They can issue a permit for an agricultural well, for example, but they cannot say you can pump this water to South Florida. Only we can say that. And they cannot say you can bottle it and haul it across the county line. Only we can say that. And he's exactly right. It's a 4/5 vote. Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. We're just on the resolution. We can talk about that outside.
So as the motion is now, it was to strike
3.
Strike 3.
You're up.
All for that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I didn't hear a vote from you, Mr. I voted.
Oh, no, you're backtracking?
No.
I voted with these guys.
You're the one who wanted this in last meeting.
Well,
You spoke about how you weren't going to support it.
But when you take that,
Come, let's get the vote finished here. We're going to move on.
Well, what,
So the vote's 3-2. I voted with you, Lynn, and
see, we would have won if you would have.
and I reversed my vote.
it's a matter of semantics, and I think it's important, though, that I'd like to see us stand united on it, but apparently we're not.
Could we clarify the vote? Could you?
I reversed my vote then, and vote with Lynn.
We can re-vote.
Yeah, you haven't taken up the next item yet, so you
We can re-vote.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so the motion still is on the floor.
That's right.
To strike number 3.
Strike number
Second.
3.
Okay? All for the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Against.
Aye.
3-2, it fails. So now let
So I move that we approve the resolution that's before you.
Okay, now hear a second.
I second.
Second by Mr. Moore. Now let me say something here so we can do some housekeeping, guys. This is, if we can be respectful of each other and let the person whose item is being heard finish, I don't think we'll be in this quandary, because then we would have had a motion on the floor, and then we could have discussed it and maybe debated taking 3 out. I'm just asking, let's just don't jump to motions until...
I think that's a great idea. Thank
If
you.
we want to set that protocol all the time, I'm fine to follow it. If everybody else follows the same way, then that's fine with me. If it's your...
For commissioner
If it's
items?
your item, then it's assumed you make the motion, and
Exactly.
that's fine with me. And I'm sorry if I stepped on anybody's toes.
That's what I'm suggesting. And I think that's fair.
I'm gonna...
That's fine.
Before we vote, I'm voting for this motion. I think the original resolution was better, in my opinion, but I think it's not worth fighting over. I think the overall resolution is still a good idea.
Okay. All for the motion.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you. Okay, my second item. In the, given our recent effort to contain costs, I bring this to the board because I think we all know, we're all aware that we have a lot of public records requests, that those requests have increased dramatically in the past couple years, which is citizens' right to request. But they are costly for the county, and there is some dissatisfaction among the citizens who are requesting the records. So it was specifically stated to me that that the county public records policies and procedures could be improved in ways that will save time and money for both citizens and for Wakulla County. So I'm going to take them up on their word that there are cost savings to be had, and I'm proposing that we establish a citizens committee to look at, charged with reducing the county's costs for responding to public records requests, and that the purpose of the committee will be to offer specific suggestions to improve the efficiency of our public records policies and procedures and thereby reduce costs to Wakulla County. The membership would be 5 citizens, 1 appointed by each of us, and ideally they would be knowledgeable about Florida's public record laws, policies and procedures elsewhere in Florida, or Wakulla County's current policies and procedures.
Second.
And I want to say one more thing. This would not be this would not take a lot of staff or attorney time, because the committee, other than an initial introduction to sunshine law, would not need attorney input from the county attorney until they have their final work product. And staff will not be responsible for doing anything other than advertising the meetings. The committee itself will take care of the minutes. And I'm sorry, I know you all have a chance to read it, but a lot of the citizens or people watching may not really know what the item's about. So I think it's worth going through it.
Absolutely. I want to stress, though, that this should be as nice a committee as possible. I mean, that goes without saying, but I don't want this to be rake staff over the coals because they don't like how they're doing something or whatever. If it's going to be a committee, it should be like the infrastructure committee was, or something where you talk about things.
We want specific suggestions. We're focusing on solutions, on outcomes, and the bar is going to be focused on, reducing county costs. And if there are other benefits, cost savings to citizens, other things, so much the better.
I think this would be a good chance to produce some recommendations for improvements instead of, we don't want a list of what's wrong.
Exactly.
We want a list of, here's a way to make it better, and I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I move that we approve establishing a public records committee as described.
Second.
Motion and a second. Renee Calhoun.
Believe it or not, I'm going to make this short and sweet, Commissioners. I hope you do set this up. I applaud you, Commissioner Arts, for actually coming up with this and doing it, because there are a lot of things that can be done. Putting in record requests time and time again, there has to be something that can be done to stop those types of issues, and I think a committee would be a good thing.
Virginia Brock.
Virginia Brock, 311 Old Magnolia Road. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. As we all know, freedom of information is essential for preserving and advancing democracy. An educated and enlightened public can right wrongs, support rights, and effect change as needed. I applaud your efforts for doing this, Commissioner Arts, and I hope the rest of you can support that. Thank you very much.
I will say I had citizens discuss this with me, and I didn't think it would pass tonight, but it looks like it will, so I'm very excited to see it moving forward.
Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Passes 4-1.
Okay, my last item. Toward the end of a very long meeting, we were asked to approve traffic calming devices at the farm, and we did it very quickly, and immediately after, one citizen who had wanted to speak had indicated that most residents were not aware of the proposal, and since then I've been contacted by a number of residents and actually board members of the HOA who are concerned that the residents weren't fully approved of the proposal, especially residents on some of the other roads, that renters, not actually property owners, were counted among the people who signed the petition, and that some people don't think that the speeding is a problem, as evidenced by the recorded speed limits. But I've also had people say there are a lot of people who are upset, but they think it's a good idea, but they really hate the process. And so all I'm asking is that we step back, that we rescind that item, let the residents within that subdivision fully discuss it, reach a decision. If they want to proceed and spend their money as we've now committed them to, then they can come back to us once there's more of there's less uproar.
Can I say something before you make a motion, please?
Sure.
I've got the policy here in front of me, and I think they followed the policy, and I'll read you the part that's probably the most germane, is that once a road is determined to have a speed problem, then citizens desiring to have speed control devices installed in a particular road section must obtain a traffic calming device petition from the county administrator's office, which I believe they did. They must obtain 75% of the residents fronting the section of the proposed road. I don't think that is in question, that we indeed have 75% of the people fronting the road. I wrote this policy back in the day because we didn't want someone that didn't even live on the road saying, no, we don't want traffic. You know what I'm saying? It was for the people affected by it. I think the issue here is, my understanding is the people I've talked to don't agree with the homeowner association paying for it. In other words, some people that would not benefit from those, their contention, in my understanding, is that the people benefiting the most from those speed humps are the people that front the road, basically, that signed the petition. But other people in the neighborhood are being asked to pay for it who weren't even aware that this was coming up. And the people I've talked to, I said, why don't you just get the homeowner association, which take a vote and vote not to pay for it. And the issue's done. But they won't be installed if nobody pays for them.
Well, and my thought about this, and I've emailed, and I don't think I got a last email back because I had a citizen contacting me about it a lot. I think we can talk and direct staff to wait for more further direction before moving forward, or something.
To move forward on.
Right. Yeah.
We're not paying for it.
We've approved it if they're paying for it. Yeah, I guess that's Randy's point.
If the county was paying for it, I don't think the people that have the issue now would have an issue because they're not paying for it. And maybe they would. Maybe they would.
Taking it off and putting it back, it costs. I mean, it's staff time, money. There's things associated with it.
Okay, let's hear this one citizen that we don't have a motion yet, though. Let's get a motion.
My motion is to rescind the approval of traffic calming devices on Revel Road and Carriage Drive, and to encourage the community to have further discussion about whether this is something they want and want to pay for.
Okay, I have a second.
I second it.
Okay. Ken Gesser.
I live on 98 Farrier, and as long as the issue's rescinding, I really don't have anything to say about it.
I'm not in support of it. I wouldn't be one of the ones that would be driving over it. I've seen them on Raywinkle. I don't like what I see. I think there's other means of handling that issue than putting in those safety devices. But there are very few people on the road that I'm on had a clue. They came and asked me that I signed an agreement. I'd never seen one. Nothing was sent to my house. There was no meeting. And there again, I'm one of the ones that I don't live on those roads, and I'm not interested in paying for it.
I think I'm going to support your motion. I think what we really need to do then is revise our procedure and saying if the county's not paying for it, then everyone that is paying for it, you got to have 75% approval from them too, because theirs is very unique. In every other speed hump thing we've been in, the county has always paid for them, and the petition is signed by people that front the road. Edgewood, I think, is a prime example of that.
Although even in this example, there were renters and the daughter of a renter, not even the actual property owners who were on.
But they're still a resident fronting the road. Even if they're just a renter, they are a resident. And the policy, I mean, if you have some suggestions to the policy, saying only people that live, only homestead properties can vote on this, then we need to amend the policy. But this is the policy as adopted by the board.
And what I'm going to add in again is the people of the farm elected a neighborhood association.
That's right.
And I strongly encourage, I'll be glad to support, but I strongly encourage if you don't like what your neighborhood association's doing, in the same way if you don't like what we're doing, change them out when the time comes around. But that's who you all have chosen for yourselves to decide what to do with the dues you pay.
Okay, I'll add one more thing. I think basically the nice little lady in the back who brought this to our attention, I asked the questions that night and I was not happy with the answers that I got. It sort of went away, but anyway, I think basically we ought to go to the point in this case that if the homeowners association, if the members of the homeowners association vote for this, then they can pay for it. If the homeowners in the association do not vote for it, then it doesn't happen.
Cleve, could you come up for a minute? Okay. Do you have a recommendation for doing something other than just rescinding it and letting the people at the farm work it out and then approach us again if it's something they want to proceed forward with?
I do think the people fronting the road, Carriage and Revel, followed your procedure. And even if you take into account the renters, I still think you've got the 75% of the people. But you know, this would be the 5th time that we've done this since I've been back. And when the people sit down across from my desk and we explain the process, the neighborhood is unified. We don't install them, then come back and have people complaining about them. So this is an HOA issue, and the HOA is paying for this. But if you want to rescind this, to maybe to slow the process down, but you know, like I said, other times we've done that, the community has been united, and we can tell they're working because immediately the complaints stop. Tafflinger, we were getting 2 or 3 phone calls a day about speeding. I haven't heard anything from Tafflinger since the day we put them down. So, you know, like I said, this is a unique case that first of all they're agreeing to pay for it themselves, and secondly, where the neighborhood's divided on what they want to do.
So do you agree that this motion is the reasonable way to go, or do you have an alternative that you would recommend?
I don't know what to tell you, Commissioner Harts. I sat with the president of the HOA of the farm, who was very sincere, and I thought this was a unified wish of the farm. They complied with the county's procedure, and it wasn't until after the fact that all of a sudden, you know, we maybe didn't have the consensus of the HOA. So I guess in the best interest of, I don't know, you're getting to the HOA's business here. I mean, you know, and plus they're agreeing to pay for it. In fact, I asked the gentleman from the HOA if they're willing to wait, and they follow the petition process, the county would install them if funds are available. I mean, that'd be fair to the farms. We did it for other neighborhoods. And the response I got then was they want the urgency of having these speed bumps put in at this time with traffic calming devices, or people were not happy for people cutting through the farms due to the remediation project for the groundwater and the storage tanks down at Michelle's, at Cager Posey and Shadeville Road at the Michelle's gas station.
Which is going to end when?
It'll be done in a few months, and that's exactly what I said.
It may change. The whole situation may change.
If you're doing this just for that one project, that's temporary. And I said, you know, but if you want a permanent solution here, you know, follow the procedures and let's bring it before the board and let the, you know, and let the county do it like when they do other.
You can do it like Cleve, like you did on Raywinkle Road. I mean, Lonnie Raker by my house putting no through traffic signs. I had guys working at my house get stopped and get a ticket because they were driving on Lonnie Raker, you know, using it as a cut through. That, you know, you might propose that, not do anything, but maybe you can always take a sign back up.
Maybe, Lynn, if you can amend your motion to just direct the homeowners to reach an agreement on what they wish, and we'll follow the directions of the homeowners association.
Not gonna work? I don't think it will. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
I think the homeowners, I think the people in that subdivision have been hoodwinked because they were told. I mean, they took our policy literally. The gentleman who runs the homeowner association. This is what I'm understanding from the. I mean, I had a ton of folks in that subdivision upset, like ready to kill. And rightfully so, because when you hear it out, and then you hear the conversation they had with the gentleman, you know, they've been told, look, that's why you elected me. Now I'm going to do what I want with the money, but I follow the policy. I'm suggesting that we step back and let this start over at their level and let them work this out. I don't want to get involved in it. I agree. And let's just step back.
My motion stands then to rescind the previous approval and let encourage the subdivision to have conversation.
Second by Mr. Moore. Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's all your items.
Yes, thank you.
County Attorney, you had one item you added on?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I added on a resolution relating to the county's organizational chart. This would amend the existing organizational chart. The issue that needs to be addressed here is that your incoming county administrator is first cousins with a long-standing existing county employee. And in order to avoid any future potential conflicts with either Florida statutes on employment of relatives or the county's own nepotism policy, we are recommending this change so that the existing employee, Brian Roddenberry, would report to the assistant county manager rather than your county manager.
Motion to approve resolution 2000- whatever it is.
2011-.
I don't have a resolution number for it.
Resolution regarding Brian and David.
Second. Somebody make a second.
I thought Mike seconded. I thought second.
I can't second.
I know. I just heard you say it. That's all. I second.
Okay,
I heard you say it. I thought it was done. I couldn't figure out what you were staring at.
Any discussion?
I have a discussion. Is it not true that everybody in Wakulla County is first cousin to everybody else?
That's state law. There's nothing I can do about it.
I'm not kin to you.
Only in Sock.
None of us.
Only in Sock Choppy and Smith Creek, Mr. Moore.
No offense, Jerry, but thank God. Anyway, so any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next is discussion issues by commissioners. We'll start down here.
Mr. Chairman?
County administrator.
I just have one comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped over you there.
That's okay. It's okay.
We go ahead. This is your last meeting. You need to talk as much as you want.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That want to remind you guys this is my last meeting. I just want to say a few words. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve the last 10 months. I think we picked up where we left off and we kept the ball moving down the field, so I think we've done some good things the last few months, and I appreciate your support. I won't say this is the hardest job in the county because I think our first responders have the hardest job in the county, but it's not easy. And I've talked to Mr. Edwards about it, but I just want to thank you for the support. I want to thank staff. I think we've lost a few this year, unfortunately, but I think we've got a top-notch staff, and I'll hold them up against anybody. And I just want to let you know that Mr. Edwards will have my full support, and I think the staff's full support as he comes on October 1st. So I just want to thank you.
Tim, you mean last meeting sitting in that chair? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the excellent job you've done. No.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, and there'll be more to come, I'm sure, in the next meeting. But moving along, discussion issues by commissioners. Randy, you have nothing?
I just want to thank, this last Saturday was the Keep Wakulla County Beautiful Coastal Cleanup. Went really well. It was still a good turnout, even with one of the biggest local college football games ever. We saw a great turnout, collected, they say, 5 tons of garbage, gave out some great prizes, some great sponsors. Want to thank Joanne Palmer, who's our executive director of Keep Wakulla County Beautiful, and all of the volunteers and donors who helped make that day work. Really, we keep Wakulla County beautiful that way. So thank y'all.
Sorry, I did want to say something. Melissa, you can't remember, her and I met with Harry Reid, CRTPA, the day. We talked about intersections. We talked about the possibility of the state helping us with realigning 61. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. We talked about the state looking at doing a roundabout somewhere on a state road. We told them we would look at, or they could look at Flotsam and the other one, 319. Now, that's not promising anything. He did say he started working on it. I think it was a good meeting. Melissa, don't you agree? He did follow up with us and said that he was starting to talk to the state about improving our intersections, you know, the McDonald's intersection, the courthouse, the Walmart. Those are the big bottlenecks of the county. So maybe it'll come to something.
I hope. Okay, Mr. Moore.
I have a question. What are we doing on a grant person? We talk 16 times a evening on grants. We need grants. And I don't think, do we have a grant person? Do we have an employed grant person?
Well, she's more than just a grant person. She's got a few hats, but one of them is grants, Jennifer Langston. And since I'll be stepping back, I'll be able to help her take on some of those duties. But
we also have contract grant writers that we can use. Our problem is identifying things to apply for, I think.
Jennifer's very competent, too.
Well, I'm sure she is. My question is, we need somebody who's 100% a grant person. Those dollars are so important to us. And Jennifer has a lot of different. Jennifer's doing probably 5 different jobs. We need a person whose focus is just on that item.
I can't disagree with you, Commissioner. It's just that it comes to a matter of funding and positions, so it's
and Jerry, I agree with you also. One of the things, and I don't know what you're about to propose, but I was going to say one of the things I'm going to see happens is our new county manager, which you've said several times, starts in 2 weeks. So we're going to see how structures get moved around when that happens. Is what I was waiting for.
Okay.
Ms. Arts? Okay, Ms. Arts, motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Okay. Thank y'all. We're adjourned.
You're not